We have a quorum because all 5 board members are here. And we'll start with a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Normally we do open forum public input here, but are most of you here for the masks? Is there anyone here for anything other than masks?
What's with the cannabis thing, or the medical marijuana? There
It's on our list to talk about.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move the open forum to after we talk about the back to school plan, so that you can hear what our plan is, and then you guys can have feedback if you still have some after that. So that's quite a bit down the way. You probably want to hear our discussion on it anyway, I imagine, so I figured that would be okay. All right, so we'll move past that. We will approve the agenda and any changes to the agenda.
Just under that, approve and amend contracts, and I know it's not listed on the agenda, but make sure that we have those 2 employee contracts, that it's Michelle Bax and Cherise Culver,
Okay.
that weren't on your blue sheets list, your blue sheets. So,
Okay, we need a motion, right?
yep.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Phone, second by Fleishner to approve the agenda with those 2 additions. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, any conflicts of interest that anybody's aware of?
And no forms filled
Great.
out, so we should be
Great.
fine.
Can you unplug this? I can't hear what's going on. Yeah, go ahead.
So you should be fine on your
All right.
conflicts, so.
We will move to approve the consent agenda. Under that, we have accept financial reports, approve August minutes, approve claims, approve contracts. We have a contract with Children's Care Hospital Lifescape for services being provided for a student who is now attending the program. Michelle Bax, kitchen for experience, and Cherise Culbert, colony teacher.
That's 75%.
Okay? Need a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Moved by Weber, second by Nebo. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Sure you can hear.
Motion carried.
Just make sure you can hear.
Can you hear us, Jed?
We're gonna hit that.
Are you there?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm sorry. I'm trying to put this ice on my foot right now.
Oh, that's okay. Just wanted to make sure you could hear us. All right.
No, I'm just not quick enough to unmute myself.
Okay. No problem. All right, next on the list is information discussion items, staff reports with the high school principal report.
I suspect Mr. Norden is still out at football. Mr.
The JV game's still going on,
Yeah,
yes.
so we're gonna have to bypass
Okay.
him for now, and then I think Mr. Fisher
Yeah.
is present, so.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Couple updates. I mean, we've gotten started here at the elementary level. Things are going pretty well. A couple of things that I just wanted to point out of kind of what our focus has been kind of over these first couple weeks. We've put a lot of thought into our workshop week with kind of emphasizing a one-word focus for our teachers. So if you're walking in the building and on the bulletin board at the end of the hall, you see all the teachers have selected one word that's kind of guiding them throughout their year. I did the same thing. And so now we're starting to see that kind of grow as the students are starting to identify one word focus as well. And I think that's helping us for whenever those difficult times come up in the classrooms and different things, so we can get back to kind of our ground floor level of things that are most important. And so that's guiding a lot of what we're doing. We've also been putting a lot of focus on our social emotional learning. And so started to dive into a monthly mindset with that. And this month's mindset is everything is possible. And so we're starting to see that. I think as a building, starting to really emphasize the same things, that we're speaking the same language and really pushing our kids here in the elementary building to have those big dreams, and that we're pushing them to work towards those dreams. So those are some of the things that we're focusing on right now in the building, and I think it's going pretty well. I think the culture of our building is in a good spot right now, and so that's some of the stuff that we're working on as well. I wanted to just kind of put out there. We talked at our previous meeting about some of the interventions that we are working on, and those are starting to come into place with a couple of our teachers. So that will be kind of rolling out here in the next couple weeks, where we are looking at some of our test scores, state test scores, and looking at areas where we can improve and provide a little extra support to students that maybe didn't score at that proficient level. So those are some of the things at the elementary level that we're really looking into and working on right now. From the AD side, activities, athletics are going well. I think, we're competing at a high level. Just had a good football win on Friday night over the #1 team. So that was great. And then our cheer team, I was really proud of them on Saturday. They've been really going through a lot of adversity with injuries and sickness and different things, and they were able to really perform and compete well and place fourth at their competition. And all of our other teams that are competing are doing a great job. Volleyball's in action tonight. We had a JV golf tournament today out at the Parks and Country Club. So everybody's kind of in full swing, and things are going well as far as that goes. Our band, we have a band festival coming up on this Friday. I think we're traveling down to Platte for that. And so, they're getting going. They're bringing good spirit to some of our activities as well. So I'm just really excited about how things are moving along here and the way that our kids are getting involved and competing. So that's kind of what I had for this time.
Thanks, Adam.
Yep.
All right. Mr. McNair.
Yeah, my turn. Superintendent report. Several items here. I'm trying to spend too much time on any one of them. It's more informational again than anything. But our alternative instruction numbers, we've had 11 of those applications filed. So there's 11 students that are participating in the new codified law alternative instruction aspect. Our ADM, we are sitting at, it says 527 in my notes, and the handout I put in there, I think Mr. Bruning helped me understand a little bit better our home concept and as to which one of those kids we can claim and count towards our ADM and which ones that we're getting paid tuition for. So when we back those particular kids out of it, we're sitting about 517, and last year the number was 529. So now we're short, going into this school year. So a playground update. I had a vendor come on Friday. Somebody I've worked with in the past. He came and looked at the system that's out there in the elementary playground. He helped me, or he located a refurbishing approach, which I think we'll look into. It's nothing more than it looks like a can of paint, quite honestly, but I watched a couple videos on it, did a little research on it. It's probably the most viable product for the price. And he talked about what it would take to remove the deckings that are showing exposed metal and things of that nature, and and have to re-dip them. You'd have to tear them all down and then re-dip them. He said that's going to get extremely expensive. So if we wanted to try this option first, I think that's something that we could do to see how it goes. Adding another couple pieces of equipment out to the playground, taking a look at a few different apparatuses, and then putting in new fill out there as well, and he's going to get us some pricing on that, so that will be forthcoming at some point in time. He'll get me those numbers. So the district report card, you heard Mr. Fisher reference that a little bit, but that data as of yet, the student data is embargoed, and it's not going to be available till probably October 13th, 14th, 15th, somewhere in there. But when that happens, I'll be able to share with everybody as to how the Parks and School District at every grade level and at every school level performed with in the last spring's Smarter Balanced Assessment. And Smarter Balanced Assessment, for those in the public, that's your state mandated test that the students in grades 3 through 8 and 11 have to participate in. So I guess a general comment after looking at the data points, the Parkston School District has done better in years past, so I think there was a little bit of a downturn on that, but considering the year that was just upon us, I think that was probably to be expected potentially, that maybe the scores weren't going to be as I guess viable or where we would like them. So that's kind of that. Updates on ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 applications. Neither one of those applications to this date has been approved. And a portion of the rationale behind ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, a greater portion of it, is the HVAC project that we were looking at to spend monies for a retrofit of the entire HVAC system. And because of the construction aspect in there and it's tied to federal dollars, there's a lot of hoops that need to be jumped through in order to make sure that those dollars are being spent in accordance with federal expectations and even federal law. So, but nonetheless, the Department of Ed, the two gentlemen I spoke to, felt very confident in the applications and gave us, I don't know if you want to call it a blessing, to move forward and still work with the engineer who we've been working for up until now, and to try to move that project forward in hopes of getting things squared away, get the final drawings put together and the plans, and then have a bid letting sometime in the spring of the year in hopes of when the school is end in the 2022 school year that we're ready to start that project. So that's kind of where that's at. The COVID weekly report, I'm looking at the Department of Health on that concept. And what I would propose, and put in my notes to you guys, is that it's something I think that we could add potentially, and I'd have to have Mr. Kindenberg help me, put our weekly COVID report on our website. I know there's several school districts, I think, they're in the process of doing that. At least if anything, are positive cases, and then potential number of close contacts that are associated with that. So if nobody has a huge aversion to that, that's something I would like to start producing and making that available on our school website as far as what's happening in the Parkston School District. So, and all the other county information, state information, you can find that on Department of Health's website. So. The school calendar, I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Being new here, I don't know what the policy is, how concrete is that. I don't know if it's past practice or if it's in anybody's protocol or expectations that once that thing is set, it is in concrete. You can't change that. The rationale behind maybe taking a look at that, maybe changing a few of the in-service dates, is for professional development purposes, wanting to do some things for staff, with staff in the event of PD. The dates that are already on the calendar, such as October 11th is an in-service date where students have no school, the teachers are supposed to be here. I think February 21st is another date that is the same approach. In order for me to bring in professional development opportunities for the staff on those dates, our calendars are sometimes very similar to neighboring school districts, so the people that I want to bring in that I think would bring value to a professional development perspective for our staff, they're already at other school districts on those dates. So if we can't do it, we don't want to do it, I'm not gonna, cry over the deal, but if it's something I have a little bit of latitude in, and as long as we let the public know, I think well in advance, ahead of time, if we can make that decision to take a look at, like, instead of Monday, October 11th, which is actually a federal holiday as well, that if that something got switched on there to like Friday, October 8th, or the following Monday, October 18th, it would allow me the opportunity to work with those vendors, the people to bring in for professional development. So That's something I guess working with the vendors that I'm working with, and one of them is called the Humanity Launch. It's a gentleman by the name of Dr. Greg Talcott. He is the retired principal at Brandon Valley High School. He's kind of out doing contracting, but it's a lot of team building. It's a lot of relationship building type of activities and projects for the staff. So something that I'm passionate about, and something that, quite honestly, being new to the system, I think would be a valuable approach. So, yeah, I don't know, I guess if there's any feedback on that from board members and how you feel about changing, the calendar as it sits right now, let me know, I guess. I mean, if anybody's had a comment about that concept.
Do we have to have the 11th off anyway?
You do not. There's several school districts that are in school on the 11th. I mean, the fact that it's a federal holiday, that's, I don't know the rhyme or reason as to why school districts do what they do, but some take it as a holiday, and give teachers and staff or students the day off. Some have in-service, a lot of majorities, and don't bring kids to school on that day. And some, they're going to school on that day. I think it's a smattering of what people do there. So I think the biggest obstacle here is that people are looking at the calendar and saying, okay, October 11th, I got something planned, and we're going to do this or wherever, we got the day off type of deal. And I think that's where it becomes a little bit, it becomes tough, if we don't give people enough advanced knowledge. It's not something I would do in a day, it's not something I would change in a week, but we're about a month away from that date if it's possible. And if it don't work, that's fine, we'll stay with it. There's other things I could do on that October 11th. It's just something I really wanted to pursue. And then worst case scenario, the people I am working with, if we have to wait till February in order to do that, we can do that. I just think that might be just a little bit too late.
But they do have the 8th available and the 18th?
But the vendor I'm working with, yes, the 8th is an available date. The 8th option that's actually our bye week in football. So there's no Friday contest that date. And, you would do some flip-flopping, whether the 11th, send them to school on the 11th, give them the day off on the 8th, and have bring teachers in on that Friday and no students, but, versus the Monday. I mean, that's an option.
Yeah, I don't have any problem. Do we need board approval?
I would think you have to have a motion to
Because we approve the schedule.
change the date.
Right.
Yep.
Is there a leeway for, I guess, more staff that has already something committed, set in
Well,
stone?
that's the caveat, Mr. Leishner. I have yet to drop that bomb on them.
Realistically, I mean, a lot of times my family's planning stuff a year out, and I know,
Sure.
a lot of people are looking for the school calendar to come out to
Yeah, right.
plan
I
things,
get
so.
that. I would definitely make sure that the staff is up to speed on it, and if there's enough of them say, geez, I can't do that, then certainly. I mean, I'm not
At
gonna,
least if it's the same weekend, I mean.
I'm not gonna
might
force
be helpful.
anybody to,
Yeah.
make that change. So.
Can we make the motion that it allows you the option to?
Pending
if
staff
they-
feedback, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, I would be fine with it if they're okay with it. Agree?
Okay.
And do you want to do the October 8th date? Is that, you got to kind of set the date, or do you want to?
I think the latitude maybe on the day close to
I
that.
like it being the same weekend.
Mhm.
If they're going somewhere, then at least they can leave on Friday.
At least if it's a bye week. Then.
Yeah.
So I have no issues with putting it that concrete. Mr. Bruin can put that in there, so. And if that ship sails in the interim here, meaning somebody else has already reached out to him and he's already saying, nope, that date's no longer available, then it is what it is. We'll deal with the 11th and do the best we can to create a learning experience for the teachers that's got some relevance and meaning and purpose to it, so. Okay, I appreciate the opportunity there.
Do you want us to make the motion now?
Yeah, let's do. So I need a motion to change the school calendar by moving October 11th in-service day, by moving the October 11th in-service day to October 8th.
Pending. Thanks, Jed. Pending.
Pending staff feedback.
Yes, sir.
I'll second.
Moved by Schoenfelder, second by Weber. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Two last things, school board meetings, I just want to propose to you guys, I know it's maybe been a habit of, in years past where once the school board meeting is set, it is pretty concrete, but, I don't know that there's anything wrong with looking at that date for the following month at the end of your school board meetings, only for the sake of making sure that we're not denying you guys as school board members opportunities to participate or watch your students participate in specific activities that are school related. As long as we're giving adequate information and letting the public know about the change in dates ahead of time, you're well within your right to do that. Now, Mr. Bruning and I talked about that. There is a point of no return, and because of how we have to pay bills and the latitude that Mr. Bruning has in order to do that, I mean, you already start hearing from vendors on week 1 of a month as to where's my money, so I mean, that's just part of what they do. So, the latest you could potentially have one, and it wouldn't work anyway. I mean, if you look at a calendar, 14th is just the latest it possibly could ever be.
Or no later than that Wednesday of that week, I would
Wednesday
say.
of that week, yeah. So, I
Without giving the notion to mail them out ahead of time.
Right. I mean, there's scenarios here too where, tonight, Jill, you're sitting here and you have a daughter playing volleyball in T. Mr. Bruning, you're sitting here and you have a daughter playing volleyball in T as well. So I just want to be a little bit more accommodating if we can. It's up to you guys. It is what it is. I mean, I've done it both ways over the years, so I wanted to at least bring that to your guys' attention. If anybody had any feedback for that topic or that concept, that's why I brought it up, so.
Okay.
Does that work? Okay. And the last thing there is I put a little note in there about the delegate assembly. If you recall that July meeting, that's the assembly from Associated School Boards. It's your parent organization where they go and develop the legislative platform. It happens usually in November, I think, and I think we all kind of sat here and stared at each other and nobody really wanted that duty, but nonetheless, that's all there is that it's in your packet. There's that notion there. We still have time to, I'm just bringing it back to your attention too, that eventually that opportunity will present itself to have a board member represent the Parks and School District at that assembly. So that's all I have for my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
We will move to action items. Discuss the safe return back to school and our plan. The board will revisit the basic components of the safe return to school plan.
That's up to you guys, where things are at as of right now. I don't know as to how you want to generate that conversation. I guess I would, just out of curiosity, stand up. Has anybody, you see our school website up here? Has anybody looked at that COVID tab? It's okay if you haven't, right? Okay. I think that's, I'll take ownership and responsibility for that as far as communicating with the public and letting them know that that's where you'll find the safe return to school plan in its origination when it was adopted in August. So So if you guys can help spread the message there, people are interested in it, and then if there's any tweaks that come out of tonight or changes, then I will make those tweaks and changes, and then I will repost it in its entirety back on that link right there. So, but if I click on that, okay, and if you look up there, it's a 78-page document, so. We talked about a lot of this stuff in August, and it eventually flows into colored pages for sure. But I suspect portions of that plan. I think the greater part of the conversation is maybe how you guys feel about it. I can try to answer questions, address questions with respect to where the plan is at. The one thing I guess I would point out to you, and the people that were here, I don't recall who it was, but I think there was a notion where there's part of the plan all the way down in the colored sheets. And if you bear with me, I'll see if I can grab it and pull it down. See what I'm looking for here. Okay, so like this one here, in the plan, there was the notion of vaccinated versus unvaccinated. So I think the conversation was a month ago or thereabouts to do some differentiating as far as close contacts and those that are vaccinated having a different format or treating them or holding them to this protocol versus people that were unvaccinated. My suggestion, one suggestion I have is I think that's something that probably needs to be readjusted. It needs to be cleaned up. And there was a couple people in the public, again, I apologize, I don't remember who made the statements at the time, about making sure that there wasn't that differentiation with vaccinated and unvaccinated. So that's one particular topic that you could open up the conversation. I put several other documents in your packet about local school districts around us and what they're doing. There is the notion of maybe doing another public survey. There was one done a year ago prior to the start of school, and then there was...
Is that the one that's included?
Yes.
Was the one we did last year?
Yeah, that was prior to the start of school, and I know there was one that the district did
After.
Mr. Bruni in February, or those of you that were on the board, Matt, I don't know if you remember, February, March, somewhere in there.
Oh, I don't think it was that late. It was in the fall time. Yeah, both of them were in fall.
Okay.
I'm pretty
Anyway, I put the sample questions back in the packet, for moving, if that's something that you would want to consider for more feedback on.
Maybe we'll just open it up. Do you have anything you want to add?
I definitely think that we need to just make it in terms of the exposure, not differentiating between vaccinated and unvaccinated. I know that people are probably pretty excited about mandates and such. I don't think that we're in a position to do that at this time. We have no cases here in the school district, and
Well, I'll clarify, because it did happen today. So we had our first positive student today, but it was a situation that there was no close contacts associated because it was outside of the system. So it came from the family aspect of things. But the student was actually in the protocol, and he was wearing a mask for 10 days, okay? And coming to school, things were fine. And then in the 5 to 7 day window, which is in the plan, you can test out of it. And the student was brought in, they were tested in the nurse's office, and lo and behold, that student ended
any
up
close contacts
testing.
in the school then
No,
as a
because
result of that?
because of the timing and when it happened. It's either the date of 2 days prior to symptom onset or the date of a positivity. Well, asymptomatic, positivity, there it is, 2 days prior,
Yeah.
nobody's in school. We were on the weekend.
And I think
so-
if we're using mitigation efforts and allowing kids to come to school, I mean, hopefully that we can kind of keep this at bay and,
But
deal with it as we are, but.
yeah, that particular student followed the protocol. And the parents were fine with that. So, but the extended family obviously they're still in the protocol now, too. So there's several students in the family, and they all tested, the one tested positive, the other ones did not. So, but
Yeah.
because of now the new known positive, now that's extended their time.
Yeah.
To that 10-day window that we talked about. So
Right.
again, day 5 to 7, if they want to test again, we can do that. And
But this is
you
a
know.
perfect example too of,
Yeah.
of a new strategy, and other children aren't missing out on 20-some days of school, which is good. They can come and
Right.
mask.
And we had another student who was a close contact to date, but again, it was another family situation. So that student is in school, parent support, wearing a mask. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Otherwise, I think, the communications that we've received from other patrons, I mean, I appreciate their feedback and input, and I think mostly what we've received is, in regards to mask mandate. I haven't gotten any feedback regarding, the close contact protocols, and I think,
Well, I guess what I would reference in the close contact strategy, you'll see that your neighboring school districts, you are more alike
then,
in that strategy than you
Correct.
are different.
yep.
So, on a local level anyway. So, and that's within the plan that you have that. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
anybody
Good.
else?
Yeah, I'm good.
What do you got, John? Anything?
No, I'm certainly pleased on the situation at this point in time with the COVID and with our cases almost non-existent. I have no reason either to try and put a mask mandate on at this point in time. Hopefully this plan that we have in place works also if there is some cases. So I'm sure Superintendent McMahon will keep us appraised on a weekly basis. And if things change, we can discuss board policy changes if we need.
Do you agree with the vaccination versus unvaccination?
Yeah, I mean,
keeping it the same?
I don't have any major heartburn either which way. So I think whatever the public wants, or the board certainly wants here as policy. It boils down to the staff on how it works for them also. Because then you got to be checking, and then you got to be making sure they're telling you the truth or not the truth. And if you just have it one way, then it makes it simple.
I think when the committee had first originally had that conversation, I think the hope was there that it would entice probably more of the high school, the athletes, if they wanted to stay at the competition level, that they would maybe do that. But then as things had changed and the variant has progressed, then, because there's some legalities there, we can't ask if somebody has been vaccinated.
Right.
There's no proof in that. And then,
Right.
you kind of get caught in the crosshairs as to, the fidelity of people, whether they're being honest with you or not, and then you're putting people at bay and at odds. So
I agree.
I think, going with a straight level protocol and, get rid of that unvaccinated, or excuse me, the vaccinated portion of it, and just, 10 days, close contact period. Doesn't matter vaccinated, unvaccinated. So, yeah, Mr. Leisure.
You good? You done?
For the moment.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I guess my stance hasn't changed since last meeting. I'm, like I said before, 12 and up, which is roughly 7th grade, I would guess, has the choice to get vaccinated or not. And 6th grade and lower is in their classroom cohorts, so fairly isolated there. So I would definitely be in favor of eliminating the vaccination differentiation. And I would still be in favor of allowing the close contacts to return to class unmasked. Just being out and around this summer, there's been no concern for it. So I realize that going into winter, we're going to be in more close quarters, but I'm comfortable with my kids doing it. So that's how I feel. Mr. McMahon,
Yep.
you had mentioned in one of our conversations about a different testing strategy. Is that now time to test on that? Or?
If you're ready to hear that
I just,
scenario.
if,
Can we just get
Okay.
Jed's feedback? Let's
Yeah,
just finish
go
what we're, Jed, do you have any feedback?
My feedback, I guess, is pretty much aligned with Mr. Leishner's. Right now, I see absolutely no reason that we should consider any sort of mask mandate. And as far as close contacts, just like Mr. Leishner mentioned, I would not be in favor of having any close contact mask at this time.
Okay, so point of clarification,
It's already in the.
Matt and Jen, close contacts as of right now, as it's written in the policy or in the plan, sorry, when it's written in the plan, is that if you are a close contact, then you are expected to be in a mask for the 10 days. Okay? Mr. Schoenfelder, do you understand that?
Sorry, yes, I do. And I as of right now, kind of I'm not really in favor of that.
Okay. So that's, there's that situation, if that's something that you wanna, if that's gonna be pursued or not, but I just wanted to make that clarification. So let me make a couple statements here too, so the public is aware, because it's not in the plan. It was discussed, but it's not in writing. The nature of an elementary classroom, as to how an elementary classroom versus how maybe a junior high or a high school classroom operates, there really is no opportunity from a social distancing perspective. So the strategy at an elementary level, if there is a COVID positive case in an elementary section, then because of the nature and the interactions that go on, and if you go back to the definition of what a close contact is, and that is the 6-foot circle, an accumulation of 15 minutes or more, that happens in an elementary classroom on a day-to-day basis. There is no true methodology which you can socially isolate or socially distance, sorry, poor term, socially distance an elementary classroom. So in that event, if, say, we had a first grader in one of our sections become positive, that entire classroom, that section of it, would be considered to be a close contact. According to the plan, close contacts then are 10 days in a mask. Option 1, you can, testing out days 5 through 7. Option 2, stay home. We'll do the best. We'll create learning experience. We'll use Swivel. We'll use Google Classroom, and we'll use Zoom in order to make sure that the educational experiences for the children whose parents choose to keep them home, which is understandable, that opportunity will be there as well. Those are really the two options built into the plan. Now, to address your question, Mr. Leishner, here's a notion that I'll just put out there for you guys to consider. So there's 2 testing strategies available to school districts. One is called an Abbott Binex Now card, and the other one is called, the product name is Quidel QuickView. And if you were here last month, you probably maybe heard those terms or you remember those terms. So they're both rapid antigen tests. They both will detect the viral load at the time the swab is taking. It basically, the viral load is about any one particular person and what they're shedding at the time with respect to the virus. And if the load is not high enough, maybe it's early in the positivity that person may have, that it won't catch it. The option there then is in the Quidel QuickView rapid antigen testing, there's a concept where you can do serial testing. So if I tested me today and it was negative, And then I tested me again tomorrow, and it was negative. And then I can test the next day, and it, negative or positive. We can do that as a school district. We can provide that opportunity and provide that service for those that, in lieu of, as a close contact, the mask. I've talked to the Department of Ed contact who works closely with the Department of Health. And no, any stretch of the imagination was he given a blessing. That's not his job. But he assured me that that strategy is not out of the norm. And in fact, the strategy from a serial testing perspective is exactly what that product is designed to do. Whether we use the product as another strategy from a close contact perspective to not have students don the mask,
So you'd
that you
propose
could.
that they could get tested serially and just not wear a mask.
Yeah, essentially, that is a very good
It's
summation,
just a nasal swab
Lindsay.
just in the nair, not.
Yeah, no,
brain.
yeah, we're not touching anybody's innards there and, making people
There's a
uncomfortable.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, the nursing corps is doing that
Mhm.
and running that aspect. But because we're going to do it in-house in what we essentially would be call a clinician setting, we have to have parent permission and have them sign off, which you can do in a phone call and say, yes, you can do that. Now, in day 5 to 7 anyway, you can. That's already part of the mitigation strategy. You can test out of that. But the proposal is in lieu of, the 10-day mask, that if people were willing to, having been identified as a close contact, say, okay, yes, I'm a close contact, but will you test me? And if we wanted to do the serial testing approach, we have the resources in order to do that. And that's that's what the Department of Ed and the Department of Health, that's the design of it. That's what they were hoping, school districts would do. So I'm just throwing that out as another, it'd be the third strategy that maybe could be added to the plan or not.
So would you test daily for 5 days or 7 days?
Yep,
or
so
what would be
in a kit, there's 2 vials in a kit for the sole purpose, and it has to be tested within 24 to 36 hours. So if let's say you came this morning, we tested you at 8 o'clock. So Tuesday morning, from between 8 o'clock again up to 36 hours, there's that other window. And then when we do that, that kit has been disposed of. Negative, negative. Let's say it's negative, negative. The next day, essentially another new kit, starting the same process. And then the 5th day, within that time frame, and keep in mind, that's if it's a Monday, right? I don't know if it's going to start on Monday, but if you get onto it, you get into it on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, then you can be able to ride that out. And through the weekend, you won't have that opportunity. But then when they come back on Monday, now you're in that 5 to 7 day window anyway, which is already in your plan to test out on day 5 to 7. Now, for clarification, if you tested negative on day 5, you don't get to come out on day 5. The stipulation says you come out on day 8. You test between day 5 and 7. But when that's negative in that window, then it's the day 8 when you don't have to be in the mask anymore with a negative result. So 8, 9, and 10 is then an option that you don't have to, continue wearing the mask.
Is this lab capability even available to us right now?
Yeah, so I just talked to him. His name is Joe Moran, and that shipment of the Quidel, we have our Buy Next Now cards, which is for technically symptomatic people, and we've used we're in double digits. I mean, we've tested probably the better part of 10 plus kids and adults for sure. But the Quidel is on its way, and I don't exactly recall what the allotment was, but it was a pretty healthy allotment to get us started, because it is in this notion of serial testing.
And that's provided, no cost?
Yeah, no dollars. It's just something that the Department of Health and Department of Ed are doing. I did talk to the nursing corps and the nursing staff, and just so parents know, you can go buy this Quidel if you can find it. It's in the pharmacies. That one doesn't have the clinical, the CLIA certificate with it, and that's basically, it's an over-the-counter product. You can buy on your own accord too. There is a notion that you could send them home, but the nursing staff would rather us, administer those assessments or those tests for fidelity and accuracy. So, but that's it'd be kind of the third leg of the stool.
I have a couple more comments with that in mind. So I think that's probably another good option for us, for those that really are not comfortable with masking, as with parental consent. But a couple things to consider is that, I know that vaccinations have been, people have very differing opinions, but they're hoping to get vaccinations for younger children approved. And I think hopefully once we get that approved, that some of us can maybe settle things down a bit too. If younger kids can have the opportunity to get vaccinated in the elementary building.
So younger than 12, Lindsay?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Age 5 and above, I believe that they're hoping to approve in like mid-October to November. And then those that choose to would have that opportunity as well,
Right.
which would help.
I looked today, the age percentages, so school-aged children, so it starts with 12. So 12 to 14, or 15, sorry, 31% of that age group in the state of South Dakota has been fully vaccinated. From 15 to 16, there's 37% of that age group that's been fully vaccinated. And then, that's 15 to 17, sorry. And then the 18-year-olds, they fall into the category of 18 to 24. So I don't know exactly sure, but that went up to 41% in that group of vaccinations by age group across our state of South Dakota. There's no way to tell it in the Parkston School District, but if you want to align yourself to similar numbers, I suppose it's probably pretty close. Now, I looked at the entire Hutchinson County. There's 2019 census, there's roughly over 7,200 people in Hutchinson County, and the number that I looked on today, the Department of Health, is just shy of 4,000 people that have been vaccinated, 2-dose vaccinations in Hutchinson County. So somewhere in that 53-54%, which actually is pretty good in this county as compared to, I think, some of the other counties across the state. So just to give you some background on the numbers.
At least those that are high risk or have high risk individuals, that's why we talk about masking, is for that purpose, but then we don't have to worry so much about that part of it.
So
I think what we'll do is just finish up this topic so we can hear feedback if anybody has any. I would not be in favor of masks at this point. I think we're doing a good job in our community. So I do think that we should do close contacts masked, and the reason why I think that is because had this student not been masked, there would have been close contacts and kids would have been sent home ill, correct? Or not ill, but as a close contact. That wouldn't have been sick.
Right. So,
or they would have had to wear a mask.
Yes, exactly.
Correct?
Yeah. And
so to me, it's like saying, especially when they come from outside the school, it's like, well, I just want kids in school. So I don't want anybody to have to be masked if they don't have to be, but I also don't want kids who don't have a choice, like everybody's coming without a mask. At least if you know you've been exposed, you can wear one and still come to school. It's not foolproof, obviously masks don't 100%, but it stops you from sneezing or coughing and everything else all over the place. So I would be in favor of continuing close contacts wearing masks, but
Okay, so for clarification now, Mr. Schoenfelder, you're still there, right?
the only thing that I want to change is the vaccinated versus unvaccinated. I think
Agreed.
the close contact's already in the plan. I like the way it's working. That's just me personally. The only thing I want to change is the vaccinated versus unvaccinated.
Yeah, I'm still there.
Okay, so Jed, you made a comment that as of right now, our close contact strategies is putting a close contact, the expectations that they have to wear a mask for that 10-day period, knowing that they can test out on day 5, or not test out, but test through day 5 and 7, come out on 8 if they're negative. You made a statement that you're not in favor of that. So we have Jill, who's made a contradictory statement that believes that the close contact strategies as it's written right now in the plan, that they are in the mask for that 10 days. And if it's something, the strategy that I just proposed to you about maybe adding, that's something that potentially could be done. So eventually what you're going to have to do here is call a question. So...
Well, that's not available, correct? So right now, we can't do it tomorrow, right? This new lab?
Can't do it until whatever.
The Quiddell?
Yes.
I suspect that it will be here tomorrow.
Well, but we don't have a plan in place, we don't have a procedure, we don't have, right? Because I do think, like, if you're gonna have kids come in and test as a close contact daily, you have to have like a set standard. Like, you have to come at 8 o'clock before school starts.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I think there's definitely things that have to
Right.
be talked about around it.
Right.
It's not something we'd be able to start tomorrow, even if we received it, correct?
Yeah, I would have to talk to the nursing corps about that as to where they're at, within that process to see how that would unfold, because they're the ones that are doing it. So absolutely, I mean, I've talked to them about that, but I think confirmation, it's a good point that, putting something solid in place when we have the product.
So we have a plan, and everybody knows what it is, and the students know what it is, and parents know what it is, because what I'm hearing from you is parents have to sign off on it first. Correct? So you can't just go test a kid just because they're in a mask.
God, no, we won't.
Exactly. So I think you have to have a policy in place before we say,
Yep.
we're gonna start this tomorrow.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So
My
we
question
can't,
to that though is how long are we waiting?
well, I think we could discuss it over the next month and maybe implement it at the next meeting, if we can figure out a plan for it, what that looks like, so parents are aware of what they have to sign, what that means for their kid. Because there are 3 options really, right? If you're a close contact. 1, you can go home and do schooling from home. 2, you can come to school in a mask. Or 3, if that becomes available, you could test daily and not have to wear a mask and still come to school.
Exactly.
It's a great option. So I like that, but it's not ready yet.
Great
So
summation.
I think let's just move forward with where we're at, and let's work on getting that in place over the next, maybe we can get it all the way ready for the next board meeting and get that ready. So does anybody have any other feedback?
No, I think that sounds great. I think it
Yeah,
gives people
even if we had to
options.
get a special meeting.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. I would be cool with
We need
that.
to do that. and
Right.
Yeah,
we have
if we
more
want to
close
get it in
contacts.
place right away. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good to me.
Go ahead, Jed.
I said that sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay. So let's hold on the art plan, right? Do you have anything for the art plan?
ARP plan?
They said on here.
No ARP plan. That's what it says?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Oh, just an update on it that, we're working on the strategies in there. So that's, yeah.
Okay. So we'll open it up to the group if anybody has open forum. If anybody has anything they would like to share with us. There's a lot of you here, so we'll open it up for 30 minutes. So we'll just time each person who speaks to try and keep us within that 30 minutes if anybody has any comments.
Jill, if you could just explain the vaccinated versus non-vaccinated, what's your intention there?
That there's no difference. Right now, the way the plan was adopted was vaccinated students don't have to be, if they're a close contact, wear a mask. And unvaccinated did. We want to make it so that both are wearing a mask if they're a close contact. So there's no, have you been vaccinated, haven't you? And depending on, getting the truth, we know that's probably not going to happen. So we just want to make sure that it's fair for all people, whether they're vaccinated or unvaccinated.
Got it.
Yeah, okay. Anything else? Yeah,
Are you keeping the elementary and the high school cases separate?
not right now. I mean, I think we'll look at it as a community.
What's the question?
Keeping elementary and high school separate, like keeping track of them. Are you asking like, would we implement different measures for high school versus elementary?
Well, like last month, I thought we were gonna have that magic number come up on what was too many cases.
Well, we talked about having some research done around that, which there really wasn't any. So right now where it sits is we're not gonna change anything other than the vaccinated versus unvaccinated in the plan. It sounds like if everybody is in agreement. We won't have a magic number. There's really nothing that's changing other than that. So everything's recommended but not required,
'Cause
whether
you're
it's
not
green,
going-
yellow, or orange.
Because you're not going on what's happening in the county. It's
We're
just
going on what's
inside
happening in the school.
At elementary and high schools all together.
I think it is as of now, yes. We have not changed that.
And so like if there was 3 cases in our school, is that considered too many?
We didn't decide on a number because we don't really know. I think we'll just have to see, you know, how many are positive, how many close contacts there are. I think there's a lot of variables. I mean, just to be clear, no one wants anyone to wear a mask. I don't want kids to wear masks to school. I think that there are a lot of people who think that, but that's not the case. I don't want my kids to wear masks to school. I want them to come to school, go to their activities. I want all of that for everybody's kid. But I also want my kid in school, and I want your kids in school too. Because the last year before that, when we were out of school, it was really hard. People were home from work, and it affected us in so many ways. I don't want to wear a mask, but if we have to, if that means that half the school is out, I feel like, I mean, if we say we're going to close the school because there's too many people that are sick, it seems crazy to me that we wouldn't implement something to keep the school open. Like, why would we not try something, which would be a mask? At least try it. If there were enough cases, if there were enough sick people. I don't know why we would close the school before mitigation factors like such. I don't know why we would do that. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me, but, you know, that's me, so.
So having like a personal choice is no option to do a survey?
The hard part about a mask is that if everybody isn't doing it, it doesn't work.
Why does it work when everybody does it?
Well,
With my type of work, the mask we have to wear to protect us from dust
mhm.
is 5 times greater than what this virus is. And we can't wear a cloth mask to work because OSHA will come up and fine us $50,000 for wearing a mask. So how do you think this mask that you're making these kids wear protect them at all?
I don't think it is 100, I just already said I didn't think it was 100%
Well, I know,
effective.
but
I think it's better than just coughing and sneezing on each other sitting in a classroom with no factor in between them. It's not foolproof. I've never said that. I will never go on the record saying that. I'm sure that it doesn't work perfect every time, but it feels better than saying we didn't do anything before we closed our school. And hopefully that doesn't happen.
I understand, we don't want to close the school.
Hopefully that doesn't happen. I mean, I'm saying worst case scenario. We've done a great job so far. I think people have done the right thing and hopefully kept their school kids home when they're sick, and you know, that's all we can ask, is that everybody follows the rules. When their kid is sick or when you're sick, you stay home. I don't want to implement any of those things. No one here does. So, yes.
You said when there's too many
Yeah.
that are sick. What is the magic?
I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know. There's not really a magic number. I think it would be where there's enough people out sick.
How do you know? I mean,
We'll just have to see how it feels. I don't know. Do you have a magic number?
no, I don't.
Okay, well, I don't know that. I hope that doesn't
If we did
happen.
come up with a number, would you entertain it? That's my question.
I don't know that it is a number. I think it's a feeling of like, we're at a point where there are enough sick people, 50 kids out. I mean, in Rapid City, there were 500 kids out of their school district in one day. 500. No mask mandate, nothing changed. They just left it. 500 kids. That's a lot of kids out of school.
Was that this year?
That was just this last week.
What school?
In Rapid City, at this whole school district.
The whole school district amongst all the.
Yeah.
Yes, it was on the news.
Yeah. I mean, that seems, to me, that's a lot. To me, there should have been some factors.
Or was that just kids being sent home because they were close contact?
Yeah, yeah.
Actually,
They actually tested for COVID.
No, there were kids who were sick and then kids were sent home because they were close contacts and weren't allowed to be in school.
So you want us to rely on your fear level of the COVID? So say we get into November,
Why do you think that?
No, I'm
Because
talking-
why do you think it's fear? I don't understand that.
because you ain't give us a number.
I don't know a number.
5%, 10% of the school out, 15%. You act like you're just gonna play it by the edge of your seat. That's why we want a number.
Okay, if you want it, I didn't think you guys wanted a number. I mean, I'd be happy
Well, I
coming
mean-
up with a number if you want one.
A lot of it can just be what's work related. You go to work every day, you too, you go to Vera, you know, they're putting the pressure on you, you're gonna come here with that. Your thoughts might change October, November, December, okay? This way, at least, if you give us a number of a percentage, 5% of the kids are out, we gotta do something. At least now, we can look back and say that was a plan back in September. You know? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if what you're referencing is that we didn't follow the plan last year, but I guess for me,
Well,
we learned a lot last year. I learned a lot. So this year looks different than it did last year, right? Already? Do you guys agree? Okay, so we learned a lot about where we were at. I think, I feel pretty comfortable with where we're at. I'm not worried about anything right now.
last spring, we had a meeting in February. When did the masks go back on last spring? February, March?
Well, it was off for 2 weeks, I think, and then
Yep.
they went back on maybe I don't know, maybe end of March, I don't remember.
Prom when all the high school kids come in.
Yeah. Yep.
So you came in, you put a mask on, took them off for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We had some cases, it was, I told you so. Remember that comment?
Yep, I remember that very well from one of the members.
Mask on, rest of the year. No doubts, no questions, no comments. That's the way it's gonna be. I don't want that this year. I want weekly numbers. I want information, daily, weekly, I don't care how it comes. I want a website, I want a chart to follow. So that if we do our part, masking, sanitizing, distancing, whatever you wanna call it, if we curve this thing and go the other way, I want them off.
Yeah, I don't want them on either.
I do.
I don't want them either.
Okay.
I don't.
So adapt with change. If
That's
this thing
what
flattens
we just
out,
talked about. We said we would
Yes.
put the numbers on the website. We said that we would try to do, I mean, if you guys want to put a number to it, I'm totally cool with that. I don't know how we're going to find the number, but we'll try, I
What is
guess.
a comfortable number? You guys gotta discuss that. I mean.
Yeah, I don't
Well, just to
know.
reference your 5%, Dan, I'm assuming we had 5% out today. I don't know, I'm guessing. I know there's been a
So
lot of
that's
sickness
why
other
I
than
think we
COVID.
have to be careful
But I'm just
about what
saying.
percentage we use, and I don't want it to be too low.
Clarify.
I want it to be reasonable.
Look at last year's, use last year's numbers. So when you were at the peak of COVID last year, what was that percentage? Use that as a number. Was 10% of the kids sick, 5%, I don't know. It's something you guys can look back on facts, make that your gauge where you gotta be.
To be honest with you, I think there were times last year where the masks were on where we were at 0%.
Yeah,
So-
I don't want that again.
Yeah, I know, I don't either. So what I guess I don't know that we can gauge it off of last year because I think there were a lot of times we were wearing masks where there were no cases.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to look at that and say that wasn't a logical year because we went into the school year not really knowing anything.
Mhm.
We were one of the only states and we kept our kids in school all year. And I think I was really proud of that we were able to do that. As a state, I think we did a really good job. There were states that kids didn't see a school the entire year. Yeah.
So how are we deciphering COVID, flu, allergies? That's all still here, so how do we know kids are coughing, kids are sick? Are we just assuming it's all COVID?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
So
I think it's up to your
how do
discretion
you
to
know
send
that
your
if they have
child.
a temperature, runny nose, a cough?
Yeah.
Unless they go get tested. Which, are they testing for the flu?
I don't know that. I'm not a provider. I don't know
I'm
that.
just saying, so
Yeah.
how do we
Yes, we do.
decipher,
It's a fourplex.
how do we decipher that? The mask, we've never wore the mask.
I think if your kid has a fever, just generically, they shouldn't go to school.
Well, I'm saying that, but I'm just saying, how do you decipher that then?
Tara, we took our youngest in last week, and he's got RSV and pneumonia.
Well, I get
and the
that,
whole
but I
deal.
mean-
And the respiratory doctor told us, the reason there's such a spike in RSV right now and pneumonia and everything else is because the masks aren't letting people adapt to the immunity of the disease.
But I'm just saying,
And
how
it's
do you
not there.
decipher that from?
They have to go to the
everything-
doctor and get tested.
Everything isn't COVID.
Yeah.
What if you don't wanna go get,
Yeah, what if you don't want your kid to go get tested for COVID, but they got a fever and they got a runny nose, so do you count that as COVID then because they didn't go get tested?
I haven't, I don't know. I
So
don't.
right now, the strategy says symptom-free for 24 hours. It says that,
Okay.
yeah. So,
And that should
and
be-
I suspect, that's probably, that's already happened this school year, of students, not being in school, wasn't feeling well, stayed home, and then maybe was out 2 days, and then they came back when the symptoms were no longer present at the time. Now, if they come to us, and if people want, or say the student comes to the nurse's office, we'll call and ask, would you like? And then as a parent, you can say, no, I don't want my kid tested. Or, yeah, go ahead, test them, whatever. Or the conversation turns in after the student, you have him home for a couple days and, or they are home for a couple days. The encouragement is, go get him tested, go see a doctor, like maybe it's RSV or some other, illness at that point. But as far as how do we decide in school, as to with everything else that's going on, other than just a conversation with the child or all the parent, we'll ask that question, because that's what we've asked that question. And then if the answer is no, then they're not feeling well. Please come and get your child. And when that child is symptom-free for 24 hours, then the child can come back to school. That was a strategy last year, even. So I don't know if I think that answers your
Well,
I
question.
think she's asking, so if you have a number of COVID cases, how do you decipher what's COVID and what isn't if you don't get your kid tested? Is it considered a COVID case if he doesn't get tested but he stays home? With that number, what they want to set for COVID cases?
We can't count it as a case unless it's a documented case.
Okay. so-
Yeah, they have to be
so that would
tested
be-
positive before we can count it as a case,
okay,
yeah.
So that one go towards the.
No, not at all.
And then
Mm-mm.
closer to get masked.
No.
So last year, I think we kept, like, the high school, the elementary, and the colony, they're supposed to be kept, like, separate. And then it went to springtime, and then you guys masked, because I think there was, like, 2 or 3 high school cases, and then you threw it on, like, all the schools. Are we gonna keep them separate? Or if, say, the high school gets hot with 5, 6 cases, and there's 0 in elementary, are we gonna keep the mask off of our elementary kids, or are you gonna put it on for the colony, high school, and elementary?
We haven't differentiated across the school at this point.
This year you haven't?
Mm-mm.
Okay. I just knew last year it was.
Would it be that hard to differentiate it? You have your updates on your website. Would it be that hard to have 3 different categories?
I think if we have to really talk about a mask mandate, we should talk about differentiating it, if it gets to that point.
That's what I was
We don't
hoping.
have to get to
Yeah,
that
I
point,
don't.
truthfully.
Yeah, and I hope
You
we
know.
don't, but I'm just hoping
Yeah.
if we do have to, because we're
Because
going
we
to
know it's
winter.
harder.
It's not fair for elementary if the high school has cases and they go party on weekends not wearing masks and then it spreads more. And elementary kids have none, so why would you have to put it on everybody?
Whether at football games or whatever.
Yeah, we can talk about it, I don't,
If we
it
get to
doesn't,
that point,
that's
yeah.
fine with me, I don't.
If it wouldn't be too hard just to have 3 different categories on there essentially.
Well, they implemented something at the colony, correct, wasn't there? Didn't we do something different out there just recently? Or not?
You're talking about 2 different strategies here. You're referencing a mandate that is being applied from a district's perspective, where that has not taken place in the Parkston School District. From what I've heard out of the people the board members, that right now that there's no need in order to do that. I think that comment was made even last time in August about differentiating. while there's nothing in the plan as of right now that says that the schools will be treated independently based on their own positivity rate, I think that that's something that I'm hearing now, that, you know, it's certainly something that I think a strategy to be considered, based on your guys' feedback. The fact that, I mean, it's a good point, you know, say there's 5 positivities within the high school setting, you know, and that does not apply to the elementary setting. Because of our ability, while I can't physically distance those elementary kids in that classroom, the physical plant to some degree allows for that strategy to be considered, I believe. I mean, I feel that. And I think, you know, what I'm hearing right now, that that's a strategy that can be considered moving forward. You know, I'll do my best to, Mr. Schaefer, to try to come up with a number. They asked me a month ago, and when I tried to research that and find out what is that number, you know, what is the trigger? What is it? Is it 5%? Is it 10%? Is it 12%? Is it 7? Is it 15? I mean, I've talked to some colleagues and, you know, asked the question. They're asking the same question, and it's hard to hone in on that. But without any other guidance on that, if you would like, which it sounds like a lot of you are in favor of, for us to come, or for the school board to come up with a specific percentage and numbers and say, and throw it at you and say, here it is, and then try to give you the best explanation as to how the number was arrived at. You know, whether it's going back and trying to do a little research on last year, but I think that provides difficult because of there's times where there was, you know, but at the spike of it, there were certainly some positivities going on here that certainly could be considered, and maybe that helps hone in on an actual percentage before the board makes a consideration or has a discussion about imposing a mask mandate, whether it's district-wide or whether it's elementary, high school, whatever.
And that's exactly what Mr. Mickman and I had a conversation about today, Dan, for half an hour or more, and to come up with that number. I mean, that's exactly what we were talking about today.
I can do some more. When my first dig didn't really produce much, you know, as far as what the number was. I certainly understand the necessity on your guys' part to say, well, what is that number? It becomes pretty concrete, it becomes pretty clear then. When we get to that threshold, boom, you know, there it is.
Yep.
You know, but as to what it actually is, off the top of my head, I couldn't fathom, I guess, as to what it should be. But I can certainly do some digging and reach out and to Department of Health, I guess, and do DOE and see what kind of contacts and information in other school districts they're looking at as statewide. I'm asking people that are local, that I know, you know, about the number. Nobody has that number, so.
Yeah, because we spent 60 days last year, April and May, where things calmed down.
Sure.
And it was an opening of the school year. I don't want to see that again. Yeah. We shouldn't have to see it again.
And I think that's where we're basing a lot of that off of, is because it was such a, what did we get, 24-hour notice, they're having a meeting, I had to work late, a lot of us couldn't come to it, masks are on, it's done. You know, so we're just hoping, you know, there's no number, we're just hoping that that doesn't happen again this year. You know, that all of a sudden, there's 6 cases, no questions, masks are on for everyone. You know, I think that's where we're coming from.
Until the end of the year again.
Yeah, you know, we just hope that doesn't happen. I know you guys don't want that either, but I think that's where a lot of the questions are coming from, is because it was such a, I don't want to say rational decision, but it was a quick decision.
And the door was closed.
Yeah, and there was no more public input.
And that's where our frustration is.
Yeah.
No, I'll see if I can find a number.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's only to talk about a mandate, this number. If we meet
Well,
that number,
even if
then we'd
it's
be
the
talking
number,
about a
that
mask
doesn't
mandate.
mean that it's like in
I mean, I think
concrete.
hopefully
I
the
mean,
goal is
wouldn't
to
that
avoid
number-
at all
Yeah, and I think that's what we're
costs,
hoping
but-
too, like, I hope.
To me, when you
hopefully
get to
these-
that number,
Yeah.
it's not to, it's to have a conversation about consideration. It's not
Yeah.
to say, here's the number, bam.
No.
I don't think that that's.
I hope it stays in the color right here,
So,
you know,
yeah.
or the colors that we don't have to worry about any of that.
Does anybody have any thoughts on the daily testing for close contacts?
Can there be a saliva test option versus the nasal?
They do make them through the state, but I don't know, it takes like 4 or 5 days to get back. I mean, it's not real timely, I don't think.
I'd really like to know the accuracy of that test also.
Yep, so I asked that, yeah, right, I asked that question today. The two products, the Abbott Buy Next Now card and the Quidel QuickView, the research that goes along with that, what I'm being told, I mean, I didn't do the research, but Department of Health and Department of Ed is telling me the Quidel is in that 95 to 97% efficacy rate, and then the Buy Next Now is like 98% efficacy
So
in
you
producing
said
it.
test for viral load, is it, I mean, you didn't specify, is it just the viral load for coronavirus, or is it just overall viral load of the body, I mean, coming out of the body?
Yeah, it's viral load with respect to the coronavirus. Yep, it's specific for that antigen. So, Miss Leichner, she's been, sorry.
So like 2 or 3 years ago, I'm not sure if it was 2 or 3, but in our son Jackson's grade, which was either 3rd or 4th grade at the time, there was like 10 or 15 kids out sick, all at one time. Or, I'm guessing influenza, but there was no fear because the media wasn't fearing everybody. So I just want to say that in the past, we've had a lot of people out sick, but, you know, it was no big deal.
And I guess to comment on the fear portion, there is a lot of fear, but you look at the CDC results on age groups and deaths per under 17, we're dealing with something that's a little over 400 deaths nationwide. And so it's hard to get behind something where there is mask mandates, close contacts, when the numbers aren't really there to justify it.
Until you lose one here.
And that's tough.
Yeah, right.
Death is always hard.
Yeah.
But
I got it.
When there's
a
lot of factors.
I certainly understand what you're saying.
Hartford lost a student too from influenza a couple years ago.
Yep.
It happens.
Ma'am, right behind Mrs. Leichner.
Oh, I was just gonna say, right after school started, my daughter got sick, and she came to school and she was tested for COVID. It came back negative, but she was very, very sick. Took her into the clinic, and I just want parents to know, if you do test here, when you go to the clinic, they're still going to test you again. And I did not know that. I would have never had her get tested at school, to turn around and take her an hour later to the clinic and have her tested again.
And that's okay, because we have those resources.
Yeah,
so
no,
it doesn't put us out at all.
So parents kind of know that.
And we're more
she
than
did not have COVID, she had pneumonia.
Yeah, we're more than happy and more than willing to do that. But back to Mr. Leichner's question, nobody really gave us any feedback on that concept, is, you know, the serial testing aspect. You know, so you all have children. I call you up, Mr. Schaefer, and say your son is a close contact. And you can say, okay, here's your options. 10 days in a mask, stay home for 10 days, we'll educate you the best we can, or serial testing. Do you want me to do that? You say either yay or nay. I mean, that's up to you. But the alternative is that they have to do the 10 days in the mask while they're in school. Day 5 through 7, we'll do the antigen test, if you so choose, to see if they can test out of the mask on day 8, 9, and 10. Because that's, right now, that's what's in the plan.
And so if we don't want to have them tested, then do they stay home that entire time, or are they just in mask?
They're just in masks. We're not excluding any close contacts. Close contacts are coming to school, period.
But if you don't want them to wear a mask in school, you can keep them home and they can do school from home for those 10 days. So you have 2 options right now. Maybe 3 in the future, hopefully.
Unless you test out.
Unless you, at day 7?
But then it would be only.
Yep,
day
within
8
the window,
they take
5 to
it.
7, day
So it'd
8
be
it
like
comes
you're
out.
out of
2
the
days.
mask for 2 days.
Yeah.
8, 9, and 10.
Yeah.
Unless you do the serial testing, right? Then you don't have to wear a
If you do
mask
the-
once we get that.
If you do the serial testing, you don't have to wear a mask. You come every day and test, it's negative, game on. Next day come, test, it's negative, game on. Next day test it, game on.
But then if you test on day 5 positive, then you're out for the 10 days.
10 days.
Is there ethylene oxide on those swabs or not? Can you verify that, Lindsay?
I have no idea.
They're gonna say EO if it does on the test kit.
I've never seen their test
I'd have
kits.
I'd have to read, it's been a while since I've
Do
done.
you have one here to look at?
Since I've done one, I don't know, I think they're probably in the nurse's office. I mean, I know they're in the nurse's office, so I don't know what it actually says, what's on the swab. I don't know, because you're using, the Binex now is, so if I swab you and we put it in the card, then there is a propellant,
Yes, I know.
6 drops, and then,
But that swab is in a package itself.
yeah.
Yeah, can you like take a picture of it tomorrow or
Yeah, okay.
whenever and
Yeah.
send it to me, please?
Yep,
I'd like to
find
look
it.
at it.
Yep. I don't know what it says on the package, I have no idea.
Well, I'll finish just one more comment and then we'll be done with public commentary.
I just wanted to clarify, last year, you said that you weren't keeping track of the cases per week. In order to get that magic number that we've been talking about, if we did we keep record of the numbers per week for cases last year?
We could go back and look and see probably what they
Yeah.
were, but we didn't, like, that's not why we implemented it. It was just, we just were kind of feeling like things were getting out of hand and wanted to get ahead of it, so we put a mask mandate into place. We didn't go by.
Because you might be able to do like quantitative data and try to see if there's a correlation between when there were more risk versus when there was less risk, maybe come up with your,
Like the time of the year, you mean, or something? Is that what you're referencing?
the what I'm
The
sorry.
time of the year, or like,
Time of the year or amount of cases
Oh,
where
yeah.
you had more
Okay.
community spread.
Throughout the whole year last year, do you know, just rough estimate, how many cases we had in the Parkston school?
I don't know that. I think what we'd be more focused on is the close contacts because of how many we had.
You're in the 40 to 50 range.
And then close contacts were crazy.
Positivity.
Some of those cases, close contacts were 25 kids from one positive.
Was that from sports?
No, it was from the classroom.
Yeah, ours, I mean, an example, the very first one that we had, I sent 20 kids home. The very first one, and that was, you know.
And how many of them kids tested positive after you sent them home?
It's a good question, you're testing my memory here, but I think at the time, out of the first one, the ramification, so here's a statistic for you. With COVID in its original form, there was, out of every positive, there was 3 to 5 close contacts became positive, the positivity rate. With the Delta variant, with 1 positive, that number has escalated. In the youth, now it's 5 to 7 kids per case. So that end up testing positive. Back, again, my memory's not that well, but I think we had 3 kids out of the first close contact group from the first positive that ended up testing positive as well. So,
What were their symptoms, do you know?
geez, you guys are killing me here today. You're asking me
Well, I'm
stuff
just
way,
wondering.
yeah, well, way back when. I mean, at the high school level, the very first thing that our kids told us, the ones that got sick right away, smell and taste. When they came clean. When they were honest with us after the fact, that's what it was. But, you know, kids are smart. I mean, but that was really the what they had referenced, you know, at the time. So, Mr. Norton?
Yeah, so for the cases here, the early cases, we had a lot more positivity among the close contacts. The later cases, there was fewer. Part of it was just because some of those close contacts were already exhibiting symptoms, and they'd come to school that way. So that's it's somewhat of a loaded question because I can't give you a solid number for every case. It was this many. You know, some cases had 3 or 4, some didn't have any at all. And
right.
those were kind of the cases. What we found with the ones that did test positive, the smell and taste was big. And then some of them, it started like a cold, but then they tended to lose. That was our big key. That's when we really hit on it.
All right, thank you guys for coming tonight and sharing with us, and appreciate your guys' feedback. All right.
So do we need a motion to change that?
Yeah, we probably do.
To change the
The
one
vaccinated versus
Yes.
unvaccinated.
And what does the motion need to say?
The motion would, the motion, we're gonna decide first, Jed, what it says before you motion, okay? You're so
Or just to
fast.
approve the updated safe, is that all it needs to be?
That's what I would.
Okay, and that's what I have, I just wanted to make sure that was
Yeah.
enough.
Tell them thanks for
I don't know that you have to do that.
Didn't I say thank you? Oh,
Yeah, I just said approve the
We're
updated
paying
safe,
attention.
return back to school
in
and
my
our
thought
plan.
process.
To approve the updated safe, return back to school and our plan.
But
Just say back to school. Leave the ARP out of it.
Leave out our part of that?
and so we put the vaccinated versus unvaccinated
Just-
lingo?
That's why I got the updated.
Don't put that in.
Just put the updated what we.
Updated changes, and then it'll be reflected on the plan.
Oh, okay.
That
You
would
don't
be
have
my-
to
Because I
list
have
what the
the-
change is?
to approve the
I mean, there's,
updated.
it could get.
The only update
Okay,
is
that's fine. I don't care. I just want it to
That
be
one thing.
legit.
Right, but there's no.
no differentiating between vaccinated and unvaccinated for close contacts. Right?
So every the place where you see that, where it says mandatory for all close contacts unless vaccinated, I'll strike it.
This unless vaccinated won't be there. Yeah.
I'm gonna get rid of it.
And that's the only thing we're changing.
Yep. Well, for now.
Yeah, that's what I mean, for this one. For this motion, that's what we're
So
changing.
moving forward.
I just wanted everybody to know that.
If that strategy, and then if there's something, if we want to put to those numbers, if we want to have a special board meeting in a couple of weeks to address that aspect, you certainly can. We'll put it out and we'll get them in and tell them, okay, here's the potential changes. But for now, I think from what I'm hearing you guys tell me is this is the one thing only that you're addressing in the plan.
Well, I just remember last year we had close contact numbers where you had no football games for 2 weeks and no basketball game or volleyball games for 2 weeks because there was that many kids gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, they weren't all positive, but some were. Some
They
weren't.
were close contacts.
But
so
now you
excluded
can,
them.
you can wear a mask during
And
contests
participate.
as long as, as a close contact. So we're good there, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Where last year we didn't do
Yeah.
that, and that's why we had to cancel
So
two
many, 2 weeks
football
of
games
stuff,
and-
yeah.
Sure.
So do you have a motion, Mr. Bruning?
I just have a motion to approve the updated safe return back to school plan.
Okay.
And Jed already.
Made that motion.
So I need a second.
I'll second it.
Moved by Schoenfelder.
He was quick on that.
I know, right?
He got to the mute button in a hurry.
Well, everything is a little bit delayed, I think.
Second by Nebo.
Oh, sorry.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, we will move on to discuss Associated School Board Policy Review Proposal. The board will consider a proposal for policy services offered by ASPSD.
Questions?
I thought it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Was it? No,
Okay. Yeah. $1,000 setup fee and then a $900 subscription fee. So you have to anticipate that $900 fee. But
Yearly.
Yearly, yeah. But
Why wouldn't they just do it once?
No.
The $1,000 setup fee is the once, and then the $900 to update them every year going forward. Correct?
Having access to their policy manual and that ability to utilize that manual and swap and edit and
So
delete
then you
and
don't get behind
take-
again. It
Yeah,
just
exactly.
continues stuff.
They'll
Yeah,
update
yeah.
it, right.
Okay, well, yeah.
So your membership to the Associated School Boards based on your ADM, I mean, do you have any idea off the top of your head what that costs? Yeah, so
I don't remember off the top
a
of
school
my head. I can look it
district,
up real quick.
a school district half the size, I mean, we paid like $800, so you're double that. So I suspect you're probably in the $1,000 range.
I was thinking 11 something.
Yeah,
Let's
that's
think
just to
about
be a
that.
member of the Associated School Boards of South Dakota. That is your parent organization. This is a service now that's above and beyond. So it's a one-time setup fee and then a yearly subscription, okay? But if
So
you're,
that yearly
if you guys are okay with it, I would love it, because right now, you have no idea how much time I spent trying to find the ones that I put in your packet. Because it doesn't align. It's something I couldn't find. I know they're in there, but I just couldn't find them. So, but yeah, I'd appreciate that. So there, do you have that, Mr. Bruni, as far as a motion or no?
Or, yeah, to accept the ASBSD policy review proposal, I do. Does that sound good to accept?
Yeah, that's perfect.
So moved.
Moved by Leichner
Second.
and seconded by Weber. Any other discussion?
So, Mr. McMillan,
Yep.
this also included during the legislative session that they would put proposals that's being put into the legislative, not necessarily policy that's been approved, but potential items that they might want to be approved. I just asked.
Yeah, so anything that the Associated School Boards is potentially works on, as a result of codified law or legislature or administrative rule coming out of the Department of Ed, certainly they vet every one of those.
I know they do.
Yep. So maybe I don't understand your question, Mr. Poole.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, there's different policies that they put into place that they want to approve but not necessarily get approved, is what I'm saying.
He's just wondering if those are going to be available to us sooner maybe because of this.
Correct.
Right? Is that what you're looking at maybe?
Yeah, so, they vet them. So they have a lawyer on staff. So they're the ones, the lawyer is the one that's crafting all these policies. So just like the medical cannabis policy that we're going to talk about right now.
Sure.
That took the better part of, they've been working on it since March. And then there's a few hoops that had to be jumped through at the state level, not even their level, decisions that had to be made before they could even start writing policy on that. So what you have in front of you today is a result of all that work for the last, essentially, I would say 6 months.
Sure.
That they had to do that. Can it be more timely than that? I suspect.
But we probably aren't going to get access to it any sooner than when it's finally approved.
Yeah, when it's done, when they set it out for us, then it's available to us. So.
All right, so did we finish?
So no, I got the motion, I got the second, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, next on the agenda is discuss the first reading of medical cannabis policy.
Right. So if you have that policy, it's essentially 4 pages long. To sit here and read through it, I'm not going to do that, but this is from, again, your parent organization that is written from the perspective that it has all the bases covered for a student who presents a medical card to the school district, and then how you are going to handle, how we are going to handle that presentation of the medical card. So my recommendation to you is, in its written format right now, is for you to consider this the first reading. I'm not a lawyer, and I don't know the aspects about medical cannabis. That's why you belong to this organization, for them to give you guidance on such a topic. So, for you, my suggestion for you guys is, if you think you can write it better, then take the time and let me know. But
is that a challenge?
Well, if you know all the ins and
I have
outs.
some good words in it if I write it.
About medical cannabis, but if there's a question about what's in there and the provisions, I can try to answer it, but
I thought I had a question, but I can't find it now.
You can't
But just to
find it?
clarify, this is just for students.
exactly. So you do not have the right as a school district to refuse a student from medical cannabis. There's things that you can do to how you want that to happen on your school premises and your school activities, and how that has to be addressed. But for you to say, nope, no medical cannabis on the Parkston School District, no, that's not codified law. You have to do that. But yes, Mr. Leichner, this policy is for students and students only. Associated School Boards is working on the employee. Now, within the law, I don't know what they're going to come up with, but I'll just give you this precursor. You have every right within the law to tell an employee no to medical cannabis. Even if they're a card-carrying member, you can say, no, you will not.
Because they're in charge of students or?
Essentially, yep, and that's where you'll see in the other policies about medications. I mean, you have a policy right now that addresses adults, your employees, and being under the influence. You know, that's illicit drug, that's illegal drug, that's even medication, that's, prescription. You know, when they are in charge of students, there's some protocol there that you already have in place from a policy perspective. Now, if you want those people, an employee perspective, to have an opportunity for medical cannabis, that's your right. And that's where the Associate School Boards is probably going to come up with some policy as to how to navigate that rough water. But you do have, by law, the right as a school district to tell any employee no to medical cannabis. So that's something in the future. But as of right now, this policy is just respected to students and students only. So, and there's a lot of provisions in here. There's a lot of safeguards. People think, well, this is going to happen. Well, this is going to happen. They took a lot of time in closing those doors to make sure that that's not going to happen. So.
Just first reading, right?
Yep, this is just the first reading. So, and then essentially next month, second reading, and from what I understand, your guys is the Parks and School District protocol. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bruning. Is it 3?
The third reading is when to make the motion.
Is
Correct.
adopted.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And the person always has to bring, like someone, the caregiver has to bring it here.
Absolutely.
And administer it and then take
Absolutely.
it with them again. You can't keep it
Absolutely.
here, yeah.
You have the ability to allow them to storage, but this policy says.
Yeah, I was reading that. I thought that was good.
Not here. You want to come give it, I can't deny you that. You're the caregiver, and I have to provide you an opportunity to disseminate it here, but it could be the football shed. But they advise, well,
you never know what might happen in there. You might
but they
I just don't ruin it. It's probably gonna be
legal counsel advised us not to do that.
Yeah, you took my question. Has Rodney looked at this?
Yeah. I mean, he's well aware of what the Associated School Board's policy and what it stipulates. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's your first one.
We don't need to do anything with this tonight. We'll look at it again next month?
Yeah.
For second
for the
reading?
second reading, yeah.
Okay.
Because it doesn't have to be in place till when?
November
So,
1st?
November, well, the timeline on it that they gave us is like November 18th.
So third reading is November.
You'll have it,
Yep.
you'll have it in place by then.
Have the staff on that by then too.
Nope, just students. Yep, just the students, because that's what codified law stipulates. Yep. So this is just in reference to student medical cannabis use, so.
Okay. All right, we'll move on. Review the following district policies: use of alcohol, drugs, controlled substance, administration of medication to students, alternative instruction to students, alternative instruction enrolling from an unaccredited school.
Right. So the first two, as I put in there, I mean, so you have the policy, and I can tell you how old this is, because if you look in the very first paragraph, the last two letters, or the last two words, and this one here, look at the first paragraph, look at the last two words. So it's this one, Lindsay.
Okay.
John, do you see it?
Drug-free workplace.
The first paragraph,
I'm sorry.
right where your finger was at. Look at the last two words.
States.
There is no such thing. There is no state superintendent. So that tells you how old this is. So what you have in here, if you look at the Associated School Boards policy, which is GBEC, okay, and that is use of alcohol, drugs, controlled substances. So there is this one. I put little notes to myself. This one's more thorough. This bottom portion of the policy does not exist in your current policy. It's not in there. So this one Associated School Boards policy is the more thorough policy. While yours is very close, there are some things within the Associated School Boards policy that
Oh, the
is
first
not-
one is ours, the
is
second.
not, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you look at the top, I put Parkston current,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
I
now
put.
I see that.
Okay, so that's the controlled substance, use of alcohol, drugs, and controlled substances. My recommendation to you, if we're gonna start this process with Associated School Boards, is to adopt, have your first reading on the change of this policy, just like you're doing on your medical cannabis. And I'll keep track of these. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So that's gonna be the same with the next one, and that is administering meds to students. Well, if you look at what you have, which is just this right here, if you look at what Associated School Boards policy has, you can see what is more thorough, what is more inclusive. And sometimes I'm not a guy either where more is better, but there's things within this paragraph, Associated School Boards, that is void in your policy. It's not there. It does not address it. Okay?
So these were just examples, not first readings, is that what you're saying?
So I would propose to you, because of the medical cannabis policy that you're considering, Associated School Board says you should also consider changes to these policies as well. Or your policies, consider looking at what's in them to align with what the cannabis is going to do to that policy.
So this was stuff you pulled and looked at. No one from Associated School Board has looked at these for us. This was something you did.
Which one?
Any of them.
The medication, the drugs,
The Associated School Boards policy or your policy?
You just pulled ours and compared it to
Exactly.
this, is what you did.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, I was just, okay, anyway, yes.
I vetted it for you, and
Yeah.
I'm telling you, yours are falling a little short.
So
we'll
can
be
we?
doing all this.
Yep, essentially. I mean, I would propose to you is that the administration of medication to students is what you have in policy is going to be replaced by this.
Sure.
So this can be our first reading?
It can be, yes, it certainly will.
So it's the first reading of the what policy?
So if you look on your agenda.
I can read them to you.
It's
Use of alcohol, drugs, controlled substance.
Yep.
Tell me when you're
The
ready.
use.
Of alcohol/drugs/controlled substance.
Here, Craig.
Yeah, it's on there too.
A, B, C, D, right there.
Somebody took my copy today. I don't know where it's at.
The only question I would have, well, I guess on the alcohol and drugs one, it says, shall be a violation of this policy for any employee to manufacture, use, possess, sell, distribute, or be under the influence of medical cannabis in any manner inconsistent with South Dakota state law. So is this something we need to consider along with our staff policy as well, or?
So eventually, when that comes out, so inconsistent with state law, so what you just read, that policy is in compliance with the state law.
Okay.
So it's not inconsistent.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So when we get the proposed employee policy, you know, we'll take a look at that in accordance with what this policy says and making sure that it is in compliance, which if they're vetting it, it's gonna be in compliance. It won't be inconsistent.
And I guess I'm not so concerned about South Dakota. I'm just, if we decide for the staff medical cannabis to not allow it at all,
Right.
you know, this just says
That's not inconsistent
with state law.
That's not inconsistent because that's in state law. You're talking about denying them the
I'm just
opportunity.
saying, no, I'm just saying if we decide they should be able to do it, this shouldn't be in there at all. I mean, this,
Okay,
you know.
yeah, I mean, if you decide you want to allow them to do that, but it also is prohibited too. You can. It's the safeguard is you don't have to, but you can too. The verbiage is in the law, the actual law. So if you said, teachers, no, you can't do this, you're being consistent both ways.
Right, I would say we would just delete, I mean, coming from my point of view, looking ahead to the staff, medical cannabis, I would be against that. So I would think in order to make that policy align with this policy, we would just need to put a period behind in any manner and be done, instead of inconsistent with South Dakota state law.
Okay.
That's what I was getting at, I guess. And we don't need to address that now, that was just.
No, if we're gonna fix it, because it's the first reading, let's fix it.
And
I mean, that's
that was just
that's the whole
my
process.
My thought there, I mean, but, and I don't, like I said, I don't know. what-
Period after manner, right, Matt? Is that what you got? Get rid of inconsistent, right?
Right.
Okay.
If that's what we decide to do with the medical cannabis
Right.
policy for staff.
Well, that way, when you come to make that decision, that's not a hang-up, right? Is that what you're alluding to? Yep, I can do that. So when I bring it back in a month, that will be stricken. Makes sense?
I have one comment that I probably should have said earlier, but I get paid for, like I get paid for volleyball stuff. Should I have abstained from?
The bills.
Yeah. I didn't last year, but it's only $50, but I didn't know.
That's nothing
Is it
more
under
than a
the-
recognition.
Okay.
That you do that, because there is a threshold of dollars that.
Okay, I just
You
wanted
weren't
to
gonna
know.
make $5,000, so you know.
What?
That's what the threshold, if I remember right, that's the
Yeah.
threshold is.
Fully expecting
In order
at
for you to-
least 5,000.
And that's why you
Okay.
would abstain.
I'm
But you're
under.
not
I'm
gonna.
definitely under that threshold.
Sorry, we
yes.
don't pay that much for
So,
people.
Yes.
So, I mean, let's make that note then. Let's make sure that we're clarifying, and that's declaring that you are in that capacity.
Mhm.
And it's just no more than a declaration.
Do you have to make that note somewhere, or?
If you want to do it now, you can, but it's kind of after the fact.
Yeah,
So-
I know. I should have said it
Well-
earlier. I didn't even really think about it, to be honest, till I was going through and I'm
Well,
like,
and you
what
probably weren't
did you guys
expecting to
pay
get
me
paid
for?
yet, because we only paid the only thing we paid in there was the tournament only,
Okay,
to clear up the.
so
all
I
the
can do
bills
it
for the
next time?
tournament. When
Yeah.
when you get paid for the other ones, yes.
Okay,
Which won't be till after this season.
And that's just a one-time deal. Once we clarify that that's what
Okay.
you're doing, you are doing some compensation,
Oh,
or getting
the-
compensation for that.
Yeah, I see.
Then on the
You're talking
agenda
about
where
the
it says-
conflict of interest
yes,
part. You're
that
talking
you
about
just
that,
declare
yes.
that.
okay, it's a form I need to fill out or something?
If there is a form,
Okay.
and I can get the form, it's not a big deal.
Okay, I just wanted to be open about it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure it was legit, that I was, 5,000 is not happening, so I think we're good then. Dang it. Okay, we'll move
I
on.
might even consider doing that. No, I won't. Take that back.
Okay, we good?
Well, you
So
didn't.
I have
you
5
didn't,
first
you didn't do
readings.
C and D yet.
Yeah, we haven't done alternative instructions.
But the fact that you have no policy on on alternative instruction, then my proposal or recommendation is that that's your first reading, what I have presented to you.
And those are two separate.
Yep, so you have students alternative instruction, then you have students enrolling from alternative instruction in unaccredited schools. I could not find anything in your manual that stipulates what that process is. There's things that were close, but it wasn't relative just to alternative instruction. So this would be, both of those would be considered your first reading.
Got them.
Now, if you had changes there, if there's things you didn't like or things you want questions about, I'll do what I can, but.
I had a big circle around this. Does that make sense to you? Was signing the credits to?
Yes.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Honestly, it's
Probably never.
It's a
Rarely,
common
yeah.
practice, quite honestly.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, even from coming from different school districts that are maybe out of state.
Mhm.
I mean, some of the credits that I've had to vet over the years. I mean, it's a process, but
Yeah.
you just got to go through the process.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
but that's Mr. Norton's job. He doesn't have to listen. So
he's not
yes,
listening again. So we're good then, we can move on?
yes.
Because we don't need to make a motion or anything.
No.
'cause it's
No,
first
because those
reading.
are all first readings.
Yeah,
I just
okay.
listed first reading of each of those 5 different
Okay.
processes.
Do you want to do your report? We skipped you earlier because you were
Well, we
here.
look back here and laugh. I
You
don't
were
know.
really late, so we skipped you. I just
Had to
teasing.
get comfortable.
I know, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I don't know for sure what all got brought up, but with the high school, things are going really well right now. We've got everything kind of rolling. Did you bring up the AEDs? So we got 4 new AEDs that came in, and we've got one that we can reuse, so we're actually using that to transfer out to the stadium. I got to bring that one in. And we've talked about with traveling teams and so on, we can keep that with them also. So we've got some extra supplies there. As for upcoming things within the high school itself,
I was just curious, how often do you replace the pads in those? Do you have
the hospital actually does it for us.
Okay, okay.
The brand new ones, we only have to replace those, I think, every 2 or 3 years or something along those lines.
Okay.
The selling point on the two, there wasn't a pad for little guys and adults, it's just one set of pads.
No.
Right,
Oh.
and the battery can be recharged and used multiple times, where the old one used once and then you had to replace the entire battery pack. So
Okay, perfect. I was just curious.
yeah, so those are updated as we go through. Other than that, school years started out great. Seniors have been awesome this year. They were a group I was a little bit nervous about, but they've been great so far, and everybody's kind of adapting. Homecoming's coming up in 2.5 weeks here. We're going to have meetings tomorrow where we're going to find out what the dress-up days and so on are going to be. We have everything ready to go as far as the parade and so on with that. And then, yeah, that's kind of it.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, next on the list is to approve 21-22 budget.
Yeah, nothing's changed since the one that I gave you in July. So I did not reprint it out and put it in the packet again. You still have it. So these numbers, I did email you what the resolution would be, so you had it ahead of time. So I'll just go ahead and read that and what the budgeted amounts are. And I'll need a motion to approve that resolution and then a roll call vote at the end. So it says, let it be resolved that the Parks and School District 33-3 School Board, after duly considering the proposed budget thereto to be published in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 1311-2, hereby approves and adopts this proposed budget to be its annual budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. Established budget totals as follows. General Fund, $4,825,987. Capital outlay, $2,364,000. Special education, $1,005,248. Food service, $274,586. Enterprise fund, $71,142. And to certify the following tax levies to the county auditor will be as follows. General fund, which these are set by the state, this one here. General fund is 1.409 per thousand of ag valuation, 3.153 per thousand of owner occupied valuation, and 6.525 per thousand of all other properties. Our capital outlay budget, levy is a dollar amount of $850,000. Special education is $1.47 per thousand of the valuation, and that's not the maximum of the special education. Max is 1.67. But we haven't needed it in the past. But the special education budget, remember, was up a little bit from what we're going to gain, but we have a balance in there right now, so we should be okay. And that capital outlay balance is high because that does include the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 money for the HVAC system already, so we don't have to do a supplemental later.
So we're going to get still more of that, aren't we?
What's that?
The ESSER money? Is more of that coming?
2 and 3, that's...
So
I haven't heard of a ESSER 4. Is there an ESSER 4?
I don't know.
So we've received all the 2 and 3 money.
No, we haven't received any of it. We budgeted to use it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we budgeted.
We haven't gotten
This
it.
includes budgeting all of that, yes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Is included in the budget, hence the reason why they're a little higher totals than what have been in the past.
So in federal grants, you have to make the expenditure, turn around, Craig has to log into the system, show evidence that that's what he spent on that in order to get reimbursed the dollars. So you spend it, and then they backfill it
And we
once
have
you
to
submit
upload
that. Yep, you gotta.
accounting queries showing the numbering and all that stuff now.
So, and you can do that several times, so in SR2
Yeah.
and SR3, we can go in and say at some point in time where, God help us that this doesn't get approved and we start doing HVAC work, that when people
Make
want,
an expenditure.
when people want bills or want to be paid, hey, where's my money? Craig said, okay, just a minute, we take it, you guys approve the check, and then we send it, then he turns around and goes
Next
and
month we'll
asks-
get it back.
He goes and asks for that money.
Got it.
So that's the process.
But that is all included, yes, SR2 and SR3 are all included in all of
Yes.
those budgeted amounts.
Okay, so we just need a motion to approve?
So I need a motion and a second for that resolution.
So
I'll second it.
Moved by Leischner, second by Nebo. And now we'll have a roll call vote. Pro.
Yes.
Schoenfelder.
Sorry, I couldn't get to my unmute button, yes.
Okay, Nebo,
Yes.
Leischner,
yes.
and Weber.
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
All right, next on the agenda is to discuss proposal for pest management.
Which questions? I
I mean, that feels like
Yeah.
like we're not gonna question you on that.
Right.
the evidence is, as of late, has been not hot and heavy, but it's been apparent.
Fair enough.
Where it was about where that chair is, and it ended up, whatever
By
the
the
food
pop
item
machine.
was, ended up over by the copy machine. So, and then we've actually had
What?
the dead. We've had the dead evidence too.
Why didn't you tell me that before I came in here?
Well, and last year we
I got
had
my
an
bags
ant
on the floor,
issue.
probably take one home
Last
with me.
Yeah.
Good
Oh,
Lord.
spring I think it was. We had a little bit of an ant issue in the gym, so that'll help too.
Are we gonna have to do any type of notification or anything with the inside application?
All the products that K&O Pest Control uses it's kid friendly, it's human friendly, it's pet friendly. But can we put that out in a statement that we are in a pest management control environment now, and there's whatever statement, and he can help me craft that because he's done it for other districts.
Do they have to do it during school?
He comes before school starts, or even on weekends, or
That
after.
I would
After.
me
No, he's
personally-
not walking through here
I was gonna say.
during
During
the day.
Whoops.
No.
Yeah, I don't
Sometimes
want
there's
that.
a little spillover where he's just finishing up, when people start filtering in. But he's not doing this at noon. This is before school, after school, and on weekends. So
We had some things in the library last year too, in the wall. Some insects-based stuff that got in through the air conditioning unit that came in, and there were little bugs that came in there too. I mean, it's something that'll help prevent some of that stuff in the future.
Him and I toured the whole facility, and we went to every outdoor, or every entrance. And I think there was only 2 that did not have which I'll have to address with custodial, but the stripping at the bottom to get that down to where it becomes a true obstacle, because every one of them you could see light through, and that a rodent, if it gets its head through, the rest of it's following. So he's like, yeah, if you can fix that, he said, I can help you. He said, and especially by planting the bait boxes. And what that's going to do is, wherever they find it, it'll attract them, and then they're going to take it back to wherever the issue is. Now, there is a potential of when it goes back to the family, it's taking the bait with it, right? There's no guarantee that, I've never experienced, but there might be. And then you kind of got to go searching a little bit. It's just part of it.
Well, remember, we've had a couple vehicles that have had wires chewed when we took them in. They wouldn't shift, and we thought the transmission was blown up, and here was something eating the wires in the van.
But there's bait boxes on the outside, bait boxes on the inside. He sprays the perimeter of the outside. He'll go through every classroom and spray that baseboard. It helps with ants, bugs, spiders, box elder bug. We used them up there for as long as I've been there. And then I used them on a personal note too, in the farmhouse. And it made an impact for us, so.
All right, we will do a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Pearl and second by Weber to accept the proposal from KO Pest Control. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, next on the agenda, discuss purchase of portable Conex box? Conex box for storage purposes.
So when you, it's like the pods you see. I mean, they're typically 20 by 40. Based on the conversation or the notes that I put in there, I guess I'm asking Craig, and I've talked about it. Craig's done a little research on them. I think we can get it in that $1,500 to $3,000 range. He told me that, Craig, you can speak, that it was looked at a time before.
Didn't we talk about it last year a little bit, but we talked about we don't want them to be an eyesore, so we wouldn't want one that's got graffiti all over it, or, things like that, but we would look for one that was
We found a
decent.
couple.
Yeah, we did. We found a nice tan one that looked pretty,
It would blend in well.
looked really good, yeah.
Where would we put it?
Yeah, so.
They're movable, right?
Yep.
Over by the blue shed somewhere.
Yep.
So what step would we be putting in those?
One thing we could get out of, I think, would help is getting some of that track stuff out of the shop. Like all of the,
There's all
the high jump pit, pole vault pit, all that stuff that takes up a lot of space in there. You could put that in there, and they're supposed to be mice proof.
I'm sure there is.
So, and that's the reason why that stuff is in the shop, which, as we can see, we have pest control. So coming when maybe they're not the best place to shop either, but we couldn't put them in the blue shed because we ruined a cover in one winter of putting them out there.
Yeah, right.
So,
But there's one of the starting point on this is,
and this room over here.
yeah, we have some storage issues with PE that evolved last year based on COVID and the utilization of current space that is now being used by the nurse,
yeah.
and the sick room type of deal. So all the stuff that was in that room essentially got displaced, and it wasn't displaced probably in the best manner, and right now it's kind of all scattered, and it just kind of got dumped in the NPR room on the stage.
Well, it got dumped in Mr. Digman's room last year because he wasn't here. So that was a use space where we used last year, why it got stored there.
So
and now he's back and we don't have anywhere to put it.
Yeah, so everything in the storage room that we're talking about across the hallway there's a ton, not a ton, but there's stuff in there. There's
bow and arrows,
there's
targets.
shelving in there, there's cabinets in there, there's a piano that I've heard have been in there since Christ was a corporal. I mean, there's those types of items that we
That is a very long time.
that we could clean out, and then we could use that space then for Mr. Digman's.
Because right now we store all our extra desks in there, extra chairs.
Yeah, it's a catch-all.
Yeah.
So
we only have the one storage.
Are we actually talking about just a bigger facility somewhere to store stuff? Like a shed?
Well, and that's your last.
It's another option.
That's the last part of your conversation,
the blue shed out there is not rodent proof. I mean, there's gap all the way around that thing. I mean, bugs, whatever you name it, can get in that thing. The door doesn't shut very well, or at all right now. And I mean, it's just, could it be utilized for some things? Yes, but not the stuff that we're talking about in here, because you don't want it. We put chairs out there, and the hurdles are stored in there now. The mower decks, when they do during the wintertime, that's used to store the mower decks to put the snowblower on. So they put that in that shed out there. But and all the pole vault like standards and the metal part of the track stuff is stored in there currently, along with football pads during the season, and then we put them in the.
Did we lose a lot of space when we remodeled the?
No, not yes and no, but the stuff that was under that deal
needed to go anyway.
Yeah, that wasn't utilized very well either. No. But
one of my recommendations in respect to the storage, you're right, Mr. Pearl, I would agree that that's in a larger concept. When we talk about building, there's specific purposes for those buildings, but is there something of that nature that could potentially be considered with it? Absolutely, I believe that. But this is kind of, it's a Band-Aid for now. So right now, I mean,
And we could probably easily get rid of it when the time comes that we get the big project
your
done.
return on investment is
We aren't
not
gonna
going to
probably
be
lose much, yeah.
a big deal.
I would guess.
When if you need to, my point there is let's clean out all the nooks and crannies with the stuff that's been here since me just going around the facility and asking questions. How long has that been here? Long time. I'm like, why haven't we gotten rid of it? Good question. So we were in the habit up there of having auction sales. And then we quit having auction sales, and then we would put lots together and do Facebook. And once it was all declared surplus, we would put the lots on Facebook, give us an offer, and then come and get it. You know, that's how we dispersed of all of our stuff that, like this piano that...
But we don't have a place to put it.
And if it doesn't go,
it stays
then
in
you
rooms.
load it up in a box from Weber Sanitation, and he takes it to wherever he
Like we
takes it.
have now out there.
Storage is an issue here. I can tell you, just in walking around and seeing the nooks and crannies full. But my point is let's fill the Connex box up. When the Connex box is full, all right, here we go. Let's get rid of it, and then we start all over again. So.
And that lift right now, currently the lift goes in the DDN room. Well,
Yeah, that room is full.
And that thing, you know, it's probably could go in the shop over where, like,
If we had room.
where the track pads are currently and things like that. I mean,
It's better use of space, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Because we got music shells that are stored in the DDN room. The choir ones, the big shells that come up there, those are all in that DDN room along with the score table. What else? Volleyball nets during volleyball season. Basketball
There's
stuff during the basketball season.
classroom-
And then we got to clean it all out come guard time.
Classroom
Because they want to
providers.
use it, that's their classroom that they use during the guards weekend drills. So we can't use that as storage because of that. Because they needed a secure network.
Sure.
The way I understood it, internet secured network, and that's in that room. That's why they don't use the library anymore, correct, Tony? For their classes during their guards drill.
Okay, so we just need a motion to approve for and you want a money amount, or what do you want?
Well, I think we'll be in reason. I think we just approve the purchase of the Connex box. I mean, we're
Okay.
not gonna go crazy. Because him and I have already found stuff for, I think one was $2,000, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
A good one.
Yeah.
One enough.
I think so, yeah, to start with. Now, you have to be a little strategic in how you pack it. You know, I mean,
these track pads might take up half of it,
yeah, that's fine.
but
I think we can,
we'll have to see when it gets here.
Okay. Make a motion.
I also move to purchase.
To approve the purchase of a Connex box for storage purposes.
Correct.
Second.
Seconded by Weber. Moved by Pearl, seconded by Weber. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Sorry, Jed. Motion carried.
All right, last thing on the agenda is discuss building addition.
you know, Mr. Burning and I think the admin team, we've talked about it in our admin meetings. We're doing that every Tuesday, so we thought it was in our best interest, your guys' best interest, to start planting that seed. You know, we've been approached by, you know, people of the wrestling community about the inadequacy of the facility. I think you toured the facility, you know, I don't know what month that was. I just happened to be here before Shane transitioned out. And, you know, I think I put in my notes too, there's some other areas there that can be, you know, considered as well. So to me, it's just planting the seed and then being able to start that conversation as to, you know, what it should look like. I put need for wrestling facilities, weight room facilities, storage, vehicle storage, you know, FFA, ag shop facilities, that the upgrade to some of that stuff. I mean, we have 7 vehicles sitting out in the front here where people don't have, public does not have access to get in here because our parking lot's sitting full of school vehicles. So back to your storage, when we talking building up a facility, 2 standalone facilities, whether it's a garage, a bus garage, or the standalone facility that has new weight room, has new wrestling facilities, or potentially has storage. I mean, this, that, and the other. This is not. I don't have a great strength on this, guys. I've been involved in one building project, and that was way back when I was in Garrettson as a principal. And that's not a model you want to follow, because they still hold the record for the most change orders in a building project known to man. So it's probably not something that you want to follow.
Well, one thing I also got approached about, that 16 whatever acres it is over there, like a baseball field this summer. They asked, well, what does it need? How does it need to go about happening to get something like that talk started as well, between a city and a school district combo project?
Mm-hmm.
So when we're doing this, we also need to think about the big picture instead of just putting up facilities in the middle that takes away, that 16 acres has been there since I've got here 17 years ago.
And is it graded? Is that right?
It's mounded for soccer fields, football fields, and a baseball field.
Yeah, they've got 2 football fields crowned, they've got a soccer field crowned, and then they have a flat area where the baseball field goes. If you go to the far northwest corner, that has just been graded for drainage. So you can actually go out there and see where the manholes are.
And we have the
and
plans for
drainage
that
lines
still.
run to
What
get
was
to,
done back then.
Yeah, if you have a map, I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah, one of the first years I was on the board here, we purchased that.
When I first got here, my first year, I remember driving in the parking lot, the National Guard are doing the dirt work when I got here. So it's been 17 years and we haven't. But what is our big picture of that, rather than just putting up a building in the middle, then we crutch and not, hurting ourselves in the future of what our plans, overall vision for that acres
The
is.
city runs out of ball diamonds during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
I know they could use more. And we talked about soccer at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of the thought process. And
But getting
some
to and
criteria.
from it, and just that's why I wanted, when I talked to Mr. Micken in the beginning about putting a building committee type of, in that, I think when we did the committees back in July. So, just need to start doing it.
Yeah, so I'll give you my philosophy on that and take it for whatever it's worth. I work for you guys, but let's talk about weight room, wrestling facilities, things that are enhancing some of our extracurricular activity programs. We've been approached by more than one person say, I'll donate. Here's my philosophy on that, you guys, is if it is good for kids and it is a school-related event or an activity that is school-sponsored, it is your obligation to make that happen without having to solicit or people go beg, borrow, and steal and ask for people to donate. It's just a personal philosophy and a professional philosophy. You fund all these other programs. You have adequate resources and facilities, even though we're in the middle of some upgrades to, the physical plant for sure, to make it more climate comfortable. And you don't ask anybody to donate for that. So I would encourage you to take that into consideration and not, and here, I would just ask you to keep an open mind to what our responsibility is to all of the programs, and whether that involves building, how do we do that, whether it's putting a building committee together. We do not, from what I can find, I'm sure it's out there, but I haven't found it. I haven't asked Shane about a 5-year capital outlay plan. I mean, I don't know if you guys are in the loop. If you know of one, you've seen one.
I have one,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have building stuff in it.
No,
Well,
I don't remember that right
It's
now.
got textbooks, it's got
this is
stuff like that,
Yeah.
but not.
So a true capital outlay plan is grand scheme. I mean, that's the large picture.
Because
That's when
we've
you're
never
talking
talked about.
building options.
Yes.
And what that looks like. So it's kind of planting that seed. If it's something that you want to start having some conversations about, putting some footsteps forward in the formulation of a committee, and that's reaching out to, a vendor an architect. I mean, something of that magnitude. It's not something that you're gonna go on your own. Essentially, you could put a request for proposal out. You could put an RFP, we can put it in the paper. You know, engineers, architects, firms like that, is you kind of put it in the RFP what you're looking for, and they'll come give you a proposal, you know, what they can do to help you. Here's how much it's gonna cost for them to come help you, and then you essentially pick, you know.
Somebody did do that for a baseball deal at one time.
vendor.
Because Shane sent that to me from the architect with the drainage. They looked at the drainage. They had some of that stuff.
Sure.
I mean, those types of things. And then just who and what do you want involved? Like the city. Like I said, with that baseball side of it, that was he just wanted to, they wanted to know, what are we doing out there? And if we would entertain, if they went to the city too and got a group deal together. And then planning it out accordingly so that we can get everything accomplished that we want out there.
I have one more question, I guess. I know the wrestling room and we're tight on space and all that stuff, but how is like gym space? I know that we do morning practices, and is gym space okay? For the most part, we make it work?
You guys, I can't speak to that.
Here's the people that get the short end of the stick are the junior high kids.
Okay.
They really, really do. More so in the wintertime than in the fall. Sometimes it's self-inflicted. The coaches prefer to go in the mornings. I know during basketball seasons in the past, we've tried not to go more than 3 days a week in the morning.
Okay.
But it's short on space, practice space, so it's accommodating to everybody without, you know, having people come in around the clock, so to speak. Probably, you know. I mean, is it inadequate? I mean, are you doing it? Are you getting to buy? Are your kids getting into the gym? Yeah.
Yeah. And we've never come past. It's not like we've ever, very, very seldom, I should say, have had to have a practice after 6 o'clock. High school wise, the ones that get the after 6 o'clock times are the elementary kids,
right?
The lower grades.
That's the way. Yeah, and that's
it should be.
Would it be nice to be able to use our home gym up there? Yeah, but.
Has that ever happened?
Prior to them moving there, yes. I had open gym there when I first got here. But then they combined that facility.
I thought maybe because it's a COVID reason that took that away.
It's when they moved the residents there and they're housed there now, and it's all attached
It's a
now.
loft unit.
That's when we had to quit. Right, Mr. Norton?
Yeah, that's the main purpose behind it.
Because when we could use it, they were on Main Street still.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. You know, if you talk to them now, they might be able to make things work, but they have a bunch of stuff underneath there now. That's where they have a lot of their private rooms and stuff. That's where their social rooms are at. So if there's someone playing basketball above you, it kind of ruins a lot of that stuff going on too. So it's kind of one of those things that we've slipped away from. I could definitely ask them, that wouldn't be a problem.
I was just bringing it up, you know, with the discussion of.
Well, those are the types of things that we need to.
So what's the next step? Just creating a committee?
You know, what I would recommend to you, I mean, I could put, you kind of have a list started here about capital outlay lists or for consideration. You know, these are projects that one could go through and then prioritize. I mean, that's how I've done it in the past. Here's these types of things. Which one's number one? Which one's number two? Then formulate your committees as to how to proceed forward. To me,
Where did you get the list from?
I just right here.
Oh, okay. Because I'm thinking
in our meetings and
maybe is there more space to open up and ask others if there's thoughts about future projects, or are those it? I mean, is everybody accounted for in that? Or I just want to make sure people aren't like, well, no one told us about that.
If you ask, they will come.
Well, that's what I mean. I think we should ask so we can have a list and then prioritize
You know,
whatever
in
that
Clark,
is.
when I lived in Clark, they had a facility similar to this, but it was attached to the school because they could. And it was, they had that plastic sport court floor, but it was 2 full basketball courts, not size-wise, with a walking track around it. The one was a extra basketball court. The other half was the weight room, and the other half was the gymnastics/wrestling room.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a tin.
It was a steel structure.
Steel structured building, yeah.
But aesthetically,
And
on
it
the
was open to
outside,
the
it was
public.
probably very appealing and
It
probably had
was,
some
well,
wainscoting
it
on
looked
it.
like, it looked
It
like
wasn't a
big-
pole barn.
It was close.
Okay.
If I bring it up on Google Maps, it's close. I mean, it wasn't extravagant on the
Sure.
external side of it.
There's ways to dress things up on the outside of a steel structure that it doesn't look horrifying, in my opinion.
Yep. But I mean, that was what Clark did, and it was open to the public with a 2-lane walking track. But it was attached. You know, that's the problem with us is we're landlocked of what you can do for that part of it.
But I think part of that committee is to walk around the facility and say, oh, have some vision. Where could it sit? What would it take to put it here? What would it take to put it here? What would have to go by the wayside if it was something in proximity to the school, whether it was attached to the school or not, one consideration, or it sits almost on the same footprint, you know? Plus, I mean, you have all that resource, land as a resource out there too, and now you're getting removed, right? So I think that's part of the conversation as to where would be the best footprint for this, a facility like this, or facilities, plural, you know? But that probably has to be part of the conversation from a building committee's perspective, so.
Because, so we don't have the entrance blocked by a extra building for storage of the vehicles or whatever.
So we need to create a committee, you need to put something in the paper, you need to, what do we?
Well, I think wouldn't that be part of the building committee? Yeah, I mean, that was a new committee.
Who was on that? Who were the two? There was two. John. It was a you, Matt?
I'm on it.
Or
I'm
was
not
it
on
Jack?
it, but I wouldn't mind sitting in on it. I don't remember.
I know there was two. I mean, you guys, wasn't there two on everybody? On all those or something?
Yeah, we
Can't
tried
remember. I can
to
look
put,
it
you
up.
tried to put 2 people on each committee. I can't tell you who it is.
I don't remember either. I know we put it down, but.
Do you pull people from other places though in the community? Is it just? I mean, that's what I'm asking is it just people in the school or how do you get the committee? Like how do you, why are you smiling? What?
No, yeah.
Okay, I'm confused. Are we for real? Like we're gonna ask people in the community or?
I've never done this. So
Okay, I'm like,
Or
okay.
do we want to maybe, I mean.
Get some
Do you
vision
kinda do
started
like a
first.
proposal, like you
maybe-
create your own proposal and then
Maybe we
ask
think
for
about it
some
here a little bit more and then we
Right.
talk about it next board meeting.
I do feel like it could be, it could get a
Because
little,
they're hearing it.
yeah.
So I think we just, let's
Mhm.
think about it first.
Yeah, I mean, you're planting the seeds here, and if everybody's in agreement that there is a vision that you all believe in a future for some additions to the facilities,
Right.
then that's the main thing, and then getting it moving forward is,
Right.
you know, how to go about doing that. Yeah, I mean, we can bring that back and have a little bit more direction. I can give you some options there as to how
Could
that
you get
maybe
us
should
the map
proceed.
of the proposed?
You can tell you the
layout
original
or-
part where the baseball field was this corner behind the blue shed and our dirt pile. The soccer fields are to the north of there.
Soccer fields are on the northeast corner, the baseball field is in the southeast corner, then we have the 2 football
And then
fields. Now
open
we've got
space.
the greenhouse kind of separating everything.
Oh.
And I believe they had a walking path that incorporated all of that kind of wound through. John, you probably remember as much as I do, but that's kind of how I remember it. And that walking path kind of was
So like
all the way around, but
All the
then
way around.
also
Yep.
The home plate of the baseball field
then
was
there
kind
was
of in the
talk of
corner
a
where the
driving
greenhouse
range
is now.
out there and a few other things, but
Okay.
And then like bathroom facilities, you just use the current stadiums, is that, or was there something else?
No, there was nothing. That was as far as it went,
Okay.
as the ground.
Gotcha.
And this area would be for this. This area would be for that. That's as far as it went.
right,
correct?
and that's part of our discussion too, because with the greenhouse where it's at, it kind of breaks things up a little bit, and part of the grant that we got last year included a building, which we're trying to figure out where do we place that, because we don't want to place it here if this happens, or here if that happens. So we're trying to work through all that idea, plus we have the brand new track. If we put a building here, does that move the pole hole pit? So those thoughts are all going through with what we're seeing, and
Where we had talked about like vehicle shed along there where the pole vault pit kind of sits. And now is it going to be too close to the pole vault pit? So when they, yeah, I've talked to Ryan a little bit about that. But I mean, we're just those types of things we just need to get a vision for.
I think you guys know best too, working at the district where, you know, where things should go, so if you could kind of put together a little bit
I think
of
it's
a-
just more of a blessing to
Yeah.
Start.
know that you guys are on board with,
Yeah.
yes, we need some of these things, some of these concepts need to be further pursued and addressed. And then bring it back as a strategy as to maybe how to do it.
Yep.
So, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Very good.
Yeah. I didn't know if we needed an action.
I'm not sure that we do, other than it's just discussion.
I just had discussion was held on the future
Okay.
needs of the facilities.
So we'll put it
Something.
on the next agenda, is what you're saying,
Yeah,
or?
I think it'll reappear. I mean, it'll reappear, and then hopefully we'll have a little bit more, the direction for you guys to pursue.
We can get the maps out and show you and different things like that next time or whatever.
Okay, all right. That's all we have.
So do we want to discuss next meeting? Is there any conflicts at the next board meeting?
Yes, so we're circling back, you know, to that.
Before we adjourn.
So your next board meeting is this October, it's October 11th, which again, that's that day we're talking about for no school day. It's Native American Day, or what is it, is that the right federal term? I'm not sure, Columbus Day, whatever that is. It's a federal holiday. So but that is your next second Monday of the month. Now, is there school activities?
I will be gone. Well,
I
it looks
think
to me
there's
like
something on that
junior
night.
high JV football game that night.
Okay, so there's a perfect example. Are you out of town?
It's at, according to this, it says at Garrettson. Are we playing junior high at Garrettson?
Junior high?
And JV football at Garrettson?
If that's what the calendar says,
That's what the calendar says.
Is that what yours says too, right? That's what I thought. Which you, yeah. And there's cheer at Falkton. That's a long ways away.
So, I mean, that's a perfect example. I mean, would I sacrifice? Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't go. I mean, my daughter's in competitive cheer, but
Yep.
if I have to be here, I have to be here. I mean, it's fine. That's why I'm asking you guys for.
I mean, you could, I mean, Wednesday that week is the 13th.
What about the 6th?
That's awful early to get the board packet done.
I knew that was
Okay.
coming. Businessman.
Well, here's the reason why.
I
Let me
don't
look.
care, I'm
No,
open to whatever.
well, the first, we have a handful of bills, Avera being one of them, that we don't get very fast
Very
sometimes.
timely.
And there's, you know, those, that would make it tough to get that packet
Right.
done by then. I mean, could we do it? Yes, we
So
could.
the 13th would be,
We could do it on the 6th if you wanted to.
Well, and are we just gonna go away from the Wednesday evening? I mean, it's.
That's my question, Matt. What is the vibe in this community about you don't do anything on Wednesday?
I think that's been
I don't know, I'm asking.
pretty well set for a long time.
I do teach WOW on Wednesday night.
Gotcha.
Or
I think we just keep it. I mean, we're gonna miss stuff. I'm fine. I'm personally, it's like whatever, it's fine for me.
I'm really, I'll be 100% honest with you, I'm really flexible. Wednesdays are really tough for me. I do have a sub, as long as I know in advance. I can pretty much make anything happen, but I'm glad this topic got brought up, because like, over spring break for Mitchell Tech, me and my wife do like to get away. You know, I do think this is something we do need to visit on a month-by-month basis, but to be honest with you, I do have another person I'm teaching WOW with. When my kids get older, I'm going to want to, you know, be at as many games as I can. You're only going to get to that once, and then they're grown up. So if that means me adjusting my schedule, that's no problem.
You don't want to do it Friday night, but.
Well, that's what that was my other point.
I'm open to whatever. I'm very flexible. I can make anything work.
Yeah, if you're looking at the calendar, there's something on every. I mean, so if that's what's volleyball versus on 12th.
Volleyball is usually
Wagner at
Tuesday
home.
and Thursdays.
It's Wagner at home on Tuesday.
The Monday night volleyball game is an anomaly. I don't know what happened there, but that is not typical.
And normally this is the first time I've had a junior high JV football conflict in October. Usually we're done by then.
You're done.
Yeah. So this could be a one-time deal only too.
So because your absence, Mr. Bruning, you know, I don't know how to.
Well, Mr. Norton and I would just stay here, and Mr. Jadozzi, Mr. Smith. I don't know, maybe Mr. Gray would go with. I don't know. To be honest with you, we haven't had very many away junior high games yet, so the one we did have, West Central didn't know we were coming, so.
Mr. Fisher, are you confident on October 11th?
I am not confident, but it is the schedule that I was given. I can email them and check.
You know, because it doesn't coincide with, you know, we played them 2 weeks ago.
Right, but they weren't on it. We didn't play them at the time, so I don't know what was worked out, but I can definitely email them tomorrow.
Our JV junior high schedule does not necessarily
Yeah, I
follow.
did, yeah.
the
I'm gonna
high
take a
school
picture.
schedule.
I'm gonna take a picture of the one in the
I'm
room.
fine with the 11th for now, I guess. I
Me
know.
too.
Okay.
How far in advance do you post that?
Well,
Like,
it
will
just
we
comes
post
out in
it
the
tonight?
prelim. So the prelim is, I send that to the paper, so it's in the week prior. So the Wednesday paper, if the board meeting is Monday, it would appear on that Wednesday prior.
Before, okay.
Just
So,
let us know if it changes, it's whatever for us then.
but I think just the process is
Yeah.
conversation, week or month by month,
Can you put that on the agenda then, so we don't forget every time?
yeah,
That's what we, yeah.
yep, yep.
Because I'll forget if we don't.
I could certainly put it as, you know, it would appear under an action item. It'd be the last action
That's
item
fine.
all the time to set next month's school board.
Yeah, that's fine, okay. So we'll just keep it October 11th?
It does say 3 PM, so that could be a situation where I go over to the junior high game and drive myself and drive back too. I've done that before. I mean, that Garrett's a little farther than some. I know I did it at different times, but it does start at 3 PM, so. that's
So we're just
pretty
gonna leave it at the 11th for now? Is that good for everybody?
What I'm
You
hearing
guys
is
tell me I'm good.
that, I don't know that you got any other alternatives
Yeah.
because there's something on every night.
early. That's gonna be the harder part.
Okay.
It's kind of like scheduling a
Yeah.
family holiday.
Yeah,
Somebody's
never
start
gonna
with-
get everybody, yeah. All right, well, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Weber and seconded by Leichner to adjourn at 9:02. Any other discussion?
About the meeting 2 weeks from now?
Say that again?
Are we gonna be talking about the meeting 2 weeks from now? You're gonna let us know?
Yeah, I mean,
And
let
then
me
we
do a
can
little
call a
research
special
on
one
that and then I can.
Why don't you let us help you with your thought process on that
Yep.
percentage?
Yeah, yep, I'll throw some things at you and
Yeah.
then you guys can give me some
That's
feedback.
gonna be a tough one.
Because you're gonna go, like, how many students do we have in each section then, and how many, I think you're gonna have to look at.
I'm looking at numbers from a couple different
'Cause
angles.
what is our full enrollment? 517?
Well, right now it's sitting at 517.
So 517, 10% is 51 kids, that seems like a lot.
Well, and if we
If we
want,
were at
yeah, but if we
51.
want to, so now keep in mind, what part of the conversation was is building level. You know, how many elementary, how many junior high, how many high school, and trying to come up with rational numbers there that would, you know, draw a line in the sand to make you guys have a meeting. Here's what I would, don't say here's the number, once we hit that number, bam.
Right.
To me, it's, here's the number, oh boy,
We're gonna
let's get
discuss
together, let's have a conversation, let's talk about what's happening, and then make an informed decision as to what's the strategy going forward.
I agree.
I think we're all on the same page there.
So, I mean, that's my 2 cents in direction I would give you on a professional level to do that.
Any other discussion before we adjourn?
Sorry, just thought it
No, that's okay. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.